So when does Thunderbirds Are Go? When will it become available on Amazon?
The first season is already available on Amazon, and the second season launches this fall.
It's got aliens, it's got Walter White, it's got teenagers with attitude. This movie has got it all. Please welcome the cast and director of the all-new movie Power Rangers. God, it's hour 4, guys. You guys, could not be more iconic, and that's the one thing I can't say. Y'all, what's it like being Power Rangers?
Pretty amazing.
Right, so
I think it's definitely, at least for me, very life-changing, because I feel like not only do I have the responsibility of my own childhood, but everyone else's childhood right here at the palm of our hand.
I get in trouble a lot for doing Power Ranger type activities in my household because I used to break a lot of things.
Oh, I see.
You guys know this song?
Hi, I'm Christina Ho. I play Betty on Beast Morphers.
Hi, I'm Abraham Rodriguez, aka Avy Baby, aka Nate Silva, aka the Gold Ranger on Beast Morphers.
And follow Cosmic Patient. Oh! Hi, I'm Christina Ho. I play Betty on Beast Morphers.
Hi, I'm Abraham Rodriguez, aka Avy Baby, aka Nate Silva, aka the Gold Ranger on Beast Morphers.
And you should follow Cosmic Protector
on Patreon.
Hi, I'm Christina Ho, and I play Betty on Beast Morphers.
Hi, I'm Abraham Rodriguez, aka Avy Baby, aka the Gold Ranger. Oh, I already messed up my intro.
Hi, I'm Christina Ho, and I play Betty on Beast Morphers.
Hi, I'm Abraham Rodriguez, aka Avy Baby, aka Nate Silva, aka the Gold Ranger on Beast Morphers.
And you should follow Cosmic Protectors on Patreon! Yeah!
Can they hear? Can you guys hear us? No audio. They lost the audio. Oh, they can hear us now. Hello? Jezzer.
I'm sure.
Yeah, we know. We're working on the audio.
No, there's a delay. They might have a delay.
I can hear my echo too.
Well, it's because you gotta put headphones on, man.
Oh man. But yeah. Hold on one second.
They can hear you now.
Okay, now you guys hear me.
Check the YouTube.
Looks like you guys can all hear me. Anyway, Michael, Louie, it's been a long time since we've talked. Actually, I haven't seen you since the premiere of The Lion King, I think.
You know, I was thinking about that this morning. I do hear an echo, by the way, but I do remember chatting at the Lion King premiere. It was you, myself, and Andre. I don't remember if I saw you at Star Wars, but it was hard for me to believe that it's been a year since I've seen you in person. I mean, obviously, it's been a heck of a year. But it just feels like, you know, you and I were chatting at the Lion King premiere recently, and it's just hard to believe it's been a year. What a lot has changed, right?
What a lot has changed. A lot has changed. Now, by the way, you're looking pretty ripped there. So I guess COVID, you got a little stops at the gym. You've been working out a little bit, huh?
Well, you know, two things. Number one, there's nothing else to do but work out. So I'm like, I may as well just, you know, I'm bored. I'm like, I may as well just start working out some more. And then the second thing, I just thought, I don't know, I put on this Morphicon shirt. Morphicon has always been one of my favorite parts of Power Rangers. It's a cool story, I think, of, you know, not just knowing Scott, but just, you know, it's a very niche kind of thing, and to kind of grow into what it's become with certainly Saban Brand's involvement and Hasbro's involvement. And, you know, I look back at some of those moments at Morphicon, like with the cast reveals, I believe are like the highlight of just what the franchise can do, right? I mean, just truly magical moments that only Power Rangers is capable of delivering. And so Morphicon is just always a soft spot for me. And so I figured I may as well rep their t-shirt in honor of not getting to go in a month, but I'll still look forward to going. I'll still look forward to going next June. So go ahead.
Quick question for you, Michael. So I know that you stepped away from the Power Ranger world back in January. However, did you plan on going to Morphicon though in June, even though you had stepped back?
Oh yeah, dude, I'll always be at Morphicon. It's just, it's great to see. The thing about the Power Rangers community, right, is it lives so much online. And it's unfortunate that there's so many people that you like to see more often that we can't. And so Morphicon is one of those great events that really brings everyone together, right? They don't all come out for San Diego Comic-Con or for New York Comic-Con, myself included. But Morphicon, I'll always be there. Just a fan of the event, a fan of the atmosphere, a fan of the community. So I had tickets to this one before I retired, if that's the right term, retired. And if there's a Morphicon 8, 9, 10, whatever number we're up to, I'll be there too. I still got to meet the Beast Morphers cast, so I got to get over there. It's
they're a lot. They're good people. I think you would like them a lot. They're really good people.
Yeah, I find the Power Rangers in general has a lot of good people, right? I mean, I'm sure we all have some examples and whatnot, but just in general, the cast, especially in recent years, just good people that you'd want to call friends, right? It totally makes the experience for sure.
So before we go any further, I do want to address real quick. There's a lot of things going around in the Power Ranger universe and the Power Ranger fandom right now. Number one thing I want to clear right here, right in the beginning, is that neither myself nor Michael are going to crap all over the brand. That's not necessarily what we want to do. We actually love Power Rangers. Is some of you might not think we do. We actually do love Power Rangers. So I just wanted you to speak on that a little bit, because I felt that I want to clear up a lot of misconceptions out there, both for you and for myself.
Yeah, for me, I mean, Power Rangers Now, I'll always say, was one of just getting to do that, to manage that, and to build that, and to kind of help form that community will always be, for me, one of just the highlights of my life, right? As corny as that probably sounds. So it was difficult to step away, but it was a decision I made for a handful of reasons, which I'm sure we'll get into. But I like you said, I'm still a fan of the brand. I always intended to stay close to just what was going on as a fan. And for a lot of folks like yourself, you have continuously reached out to me trying to get me on this show.
Yeah.
And I have probably shot you down. I've blown you off more times than you'd like.
It's like 5 times for sure in DMs.
I do apologize for that. But for me, right, when I stepped away, I think there was a lot of questions on, I gave my reasons for why I stepped away, but I think people wanted more detail. And it was just more than I wanted to talk about at the time, more than I could talk about in terms of just, I didn't have a platform to deliver that. And so I had always intended to do something like this. And this felt like a logical time for both worlds to come together, in that, in light of just recent news combined with why I chose to kind of step away, it felt like a logical time for both, like I said, both worlds to come together. But absolutely, I've stayed a fan of the brand. I have no intention here of just kind of, you and I are just going to chat about our thoughts about the brand. Hopefully that answers your question. I don't know.
Yeah,
did I miss anything?
Yeah, no. But I remember talking to you back when we were at the Lion King. But prior to that, I didn't know that you had been wanting to kind of leave the fandom. I actually didn't know that at all. And then January 1st kind of showed up, and then I saw your video on all social media platforms. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little shocked about it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I was proud of you, mainly because I know how hard you have worked for the other job you have. But one thing we never really talked about is, can you walk me through the timeline of events of why you decided to deactivate Power Rangers Now, for the time being at least, because like you said in that video, anything can happen. You never know.
No, it's true. And I'm happy to walk you through that. I hope this is not a boring story, because right there was a lot of thought that went into making a decision like that, and I don't want to ramble here or bore anybody. I think you touched on it right. First and foremost, it's a lot of work, right? I mean, this was a part-time job, really, right? I mean, to manage something like that website. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes time that I think a lot of people don't see. And while I certainly enjoyed it, it's just, there's a lot of other fans out there with Power Rangers who can relate. There's a lot of great fandom members who are doing very similar work, and kudos to them. They've got the fire, the success as well behind them. And so they can attest to just how much work, you yourself included, right? It's a lot of time, but again, it's also a hobby that we also enjoy. And so for me, I think when it starts to feel less like a hobby and more like work, more like something you're obligated to do because it's something you started, that's when I think it's time to kind of evaluate if it's something you want to keep going, right? I felt bad stepping away from Power Rangers Now because of the community that was built there, right? I knew, Morphicon was last year. No, was it two? Yeah,
Hey,
it was 2 years ago, 2018.
Yeah, 2018.
Right, it was 2018. And so I felt bad because a lot of fans I had met there, and I could tell how much they relied on the page. I mean, it was just great stories of people saying things like, "Oh, I remember when you tweeted this announcement. I was in a meeting and I flipped out. I was so excited for this toy or for this show." And Power Rangers Now was the vehicle through which it brought that joy to those people, right? It was the vehicle through which they kind of learned the latest about Power Rangers, which is something that brings joy to their life. And so it was hard for me to step away for that reason, just knowing, again, the community that was formed, how many followers the page had, how many people relied on the page. And it was almost a sense of thing like I kind of let those people down. But, the one advice I guess I would give is just always got to do what's best for you, right? I mean, it's all, it's not easy, but you got to do what's best for you. So there were a lot of factors that went into the decision making. Again, I think it was a sense of burnout, like I talked about. It's just a lot of hard work. I think that factored into it. It's been no secret. I kind of got a pretty cool new job offer, which I'm not going to go into too much detail on, but I very much enjoyed getting to be a part of that magic and a different kind of magic. So that factored in as well. And then, as we'll talk about later, there is change going on with the brand, right? And I, like everyone else, am a fan. I have my opinions on what I like about Power Rangers, what I don't like about Power Rangers, right? I mean, I love the TV show. No secret, I love the movie. I'm less into like the toys, less into like the comics and the video games, right? We've all got our niches, and that's what's great about Power Rangers, right? It caters to so many different audiences, and you can kind of pick and choose what you like in terms of the medium through which Power Rangers is delivered, but also the seasons and the themes you like, right? So I've got my own interests, which we'll talk about, and kind of just, again, change is coming to Power Rangers. And so you factor all that into one bubble, and it felt like the right time, coupled with the fact that it was a new year. It felt like the right time. Of course, I didn't expect 2020 to be the year it is, right? I saw someone tweet a few years ago, not a few years ago, excuse me, maybe a few months ago. They were like, "Oh, 2020, coronavirus, everything that's happened this year, and Power Rangers Now ends. Like, what a year!" And first of all, I don't deserve to be in that conversation. The world has a lot of bigger problems that, right? Like, the world has a lot going on right now. Power Rangers Now is nothing compared to all that. But it's been a heck of a year, all that to say. And so certainly, it's hard to think about if I was still doing it now with just the way the world has evolved. The part of you kind of wishes maybe you were. It's just no one saw 2020 playing out this way. And anyways, I've gone on a tangent. See, remember that whole thing I talked about rambling? I've gone down that road.
This is what people want to see, is us just talking. I think that that one thing that a lot of folks don't actually know is that with Power Rangers Now, it was you. It was just you. And I think that that's a bigger misconception, that people think that you had this big team behind you, but it's just you. So that's a lot of pressure. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. It's not much to talk about. Like you just said, it was just me. There was a lot of times I met people, especially people who were behind the brand at Hasbro or Boom Studios or even Bandai at the time, all these companies, and the first question they'd ask, they're like, "Oh, Power Rangers Now, that's great. Where's your team?" I'm like, well, how do I tell you? The team is right here, right? And that's what made Power Rangers Now so cool, right? It was everything that I wanted it to be, so to speak, right? I didn't have to, there was no balancing, there was no staff. It was all me, and that's kind of what I enjoyed about it. I enjoyed just getting to do with it, as I pleased. So for all the people who liked it, right, it was my decision making. For all the people who hated it, I take ownership of those decisions as well. It's a cool thing that, again, it will always be for me, no matter where life goes from here, will always be one of the coolest things for me to reflect on. Was just not that Power Rangers Now was the best or biggest thing ever built. It's certainly not. But it'll just be one of the cool things that I got to be a part of, to say I did that, and to be a part of that community, and to help, bring about, a lot of those things we talked about. So, I
mean, it was a big voice in the Power Ranger world. And I'm sure that a lot of the fans that you had were a little shocked that you made that decision. Now, I kind of want to switch gears a second, because when you had left, there's a part of that speech that you gave that was something along the lines of you weren't excited for where the brand is headed. Now, before we actually get into that, I want to talk about the Saban era and kind of your relationship with with the way things were opposed to Hasbro as they are currently?
Yeah.
Now
Let's see.
that's a lot to unpack. I know.
Yeah. Well, so like you said, we'll get into, I think, the future of the brand and just my personal take on kind of what I like about Power Rangers and what you like, and
Yes,
and
exactly.
where it's going. We'll get into that. Yeah, Saban Brands and Hasbro, two very different companies, right? I mean, I was fortunate in that when I stepped into Power Rangers Now and my page really started to pick up steam, again, one of the other cool things about what I got to do with Power Rangers Now was you form relationships that just last a lifetime, right? I mean, you and I, we chat from time to time. Yeah. Certainly, I got to know a lot of the actors who were on the show, who I talked about are just good people, and people like the Sudarso brothers, Brendan Mahee. I mean, the guys you text on the weekend, right? You do things with them. Some of the folks at Enway, I went on a hike with some of them a few weeks ago. Just good people, right? I mean, folks like, I'll give it name Jason Bischoff. I mean, just a guy I look up to a lot, just in terms of a person and how to carry yourself, how to be a professional. Those kind of relationships are invaluable, right? And so when I stepped in at the Saban Brands era, I formed a lot of the relationships with people who were there, working with Power Rangers, and it was special to be around the brand, but special to get to know those people and to still know them today. So I think it's important to remember, right? For Power Rangers is a job for all those folks, right? And they move on just like you and I move on to new jobs, and everybody watching this, right? We all go through our own development, and we look for new opportunities through which we can continue to advance our careers. So folks move on, things change. I mean, certainly, companies like Bandai, there's a lot of people who came and went. And so when Hasbro kind of came into the picture, it was a major overhaul, right? I have been fortunate in my career thus far. Maybe fortunate is not the right word. I worked at Verizon previously. I don't know how many people know that. I worked at Verizon. It was my first job at a college. So I was at Verizon when they acquired AOL and Yahoo, two big acquisitions. Then it moved over to Disney when they acquired 21st Century Fox. Not going to go into detail about any of those acquisitions, but I've been around a lot of acquisitions is the point. And so when Hasbro kind of acquired Power Rangers, I've seen it happen 3 times before, right? Major overhaul, sure. Players in the game change, the way thinking changes, right? It's a lot of change for, in this case, a brand when it changes companies. So as I got to know Hasbro, I got to know some of the folks there again. There's good folks there as well. It's just a different way of thinking. They think differently than the Saban Brands folks thought.
Yeah, it was more so of a philosophical change with a business. I think it was a culture change. What I mean by culture, I mean it was just a business change that took a little getting used to. Also, I think that Hasbro is obviously, I mean, let's be honest, they're quite a big company. They're not a small fish. And I think that they have a larger outlook, if you will, on how the business sense in acquiring properties works.
Yeah, like you said, every company's got a culture, right? I mean, for those of us who've worked at different companies, every company has a different culture, and that permeates not just through the employees, but all the way down through, it could reach the fans, right? And so Hasbro was a company I was largely unfamiliar with. I have to be honest with you. When Hasbro acquired Power Rangers, just not a company I knew a lot about. I had to do a lot of research. I'm not the biggest toy expert, so I was, for me, when I heard Hasbro, I was like, what do they own? Board games, right? Like, I just didn't know a lot about them. So different culture, different people, different way of thinking. I think, boy, how do I explain this? Look, this is just my personal take based on things conversations I've had, people I've talked to. I don't think Hasbro values the fan, and that's just me being very blunt, as much as they should, or as much as I've seen other companies do. I just don't. Yeah, I mean, you see.
I think I know what you're trying to say. Is that I think that what you're trying to say is that with Saban, and I agree with you on this, especially on the media side that both of us kind of came from. I felt like with Saban, it felt, and this is my own opinion. This is an opinion, not news, just an opinion. But I think that it felt more personal. I felt like I had a personal relationship with some of the people there. It felt like they were trying to help us deliver news to people, and I felt like somewhere along the way, in that transitional aspect, some of that may have been lost.
Yeah, I think Hasbro, what it comes down to is they have a very different marketing strategy, right? And I think you can see that very clearly through how they're pushing out. This week is a great example, right? They did the Psycho Ranger toys, they did the Omega Ranger toy, and there's something else in there, the Red Ranger helmet, right? Hasbro communicates all those announcements through big channels like your IGNs, your CNET, your Screen Rant, which you're very familiar with, your comicbook.com. And I'm not saying I fault that strategy, right? They're looking at it from a size perspective, right? These websites have scale, but these websites don't have, in my opinion, the niche audience that a lot of the fandom does, right? For lack of a better term, IGN has 500, and this is me making up numbers, let's just say 500,000 Twitter followers. A Power Rangers fan page may have 20,000 Twitter followers. So on the surface, yes, IGN has a larger reach than the Power Rangers fan page, but who has the fans you're really trying to reach?
That's exactly right.
That's the argument that can be made. But I also understand, right, in Hasbro's attempt to get their products in front of a more casual audience, in front of people who may not be purchasing it, because let's be honest, of that Power Rangers fan page, of that 20,000, all those 20,000 were probably going to buy the helmet regardless. Mm-hmm. How do you attract new fans to buy the helmet? Well, that's why you probably go to like an IGN or something. So all that to say, it's right. Yeah, it's a different marketing strategy. But again, we can argue if you agree, disagree, not the point. I also say, I just think for Hasbro, they, again, it's just different, right? They'll do a breakfast at Comic-Con for the fans every year. They'll do something at Toy Fair in New York, like a continental lunch. That's all you're going to get, right? That's their, hey, look, we care about you, right? And to me, again, just the people I've talked to on the inside, the conversation I've had there, it comes across very, I'm lacking the word right now, but soulless, if that's the right word. I don't know. It's
I mean, it comes out very corporate to me.
It's corporate, yeah. It
feels very much like a corporate line. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different philosophy. Whereas I felt when it was with Saban, it was a little bit more personal. But that's not saying the brand's bad. That's not saying Power Rangers is bad in any way. It's just a different philosophy. That's all.
Different philosophy, different marketing, and again, not one that I'm even saying I disagree with. Right? I totally get that approach. But again, going back to like the Psycho Ranger set as a good example this week. I saw a lot of fans. I guess this thing leaked out a couple weeks ago, right? A lot of fans were like, "Oh, why hasn't Hasbro announced it? Why doesn't Hasbro care about their marketing?" That's just not how Hasbro thinks. Hasbro's thinking is, the world knows about my Psycho Ranger set when IGN reports the Psycho Ranger set. The fans you can talk about it all you want. You're in a bubble. That's how they see it. You're in a little fan bubble. The world will know about it when we give it to IGN. And that's what or this week, I don't think they gave it to IGN, whoever they gave it to. That's just how they think in terms of marketing is, right? It will. So anyways, I think I've made my point by now, but it's just a different approach to how you take care of quote unquote super fans, right?
Yeah, no, look, I completely 100% agree with you. And I'll give you a very personal example. Obviously with the Illuminerdi, or back when I was at a hashtag show, I think I know we broke the Austin St. John returning for Beast Morphers whole thing. And then we transitioned over. That was that year at Comic-Con when he was going to be on the panel, but nobody knew he was going to be on the panel. It was going to be a big surprise. I asked originally for to get an interview, and they were cool with it, but they ended up giving it to me anyway, but through Screen Rant. So it had to be through Screen Rant. So that's exactly kind of like what I'm talking about, is that, look, I love Screen Rant, but they don't have the biggest Power Ranger fan base, obviously. But they have a lot more viewers daily than the Illuminerdi, or than a hashtag show did at the time. So, I mean, still does. So I understand why they did it, but I feel that like with Saban, that it felt like they were working a little bit more with the fandom influencers, we'll say.
Well, they had the Power Force, which is another whole controversial subject that I probably shouldn't have even said those two words. But right, I'm biased, right? I was born and raised through the fandom, right? I'm a fandom guy. I'm a fandom member like you and the people watching. And so I believe in the power of the fandom, and I believe in the power of what the quote unquote super fans, and I hate that term, what the quote unquote super fans can do. So I do wish to see, hopefully one day, Hasbro maybe utilize the power more of those fans and their passion and their reach and their enthusiasm, right? And so we'll see. It's just, again, it's not how they've operated for years with their other brands. So it'll take a total, again, it's just a total corporate shift there to get there. But I hope to see one day that the fans who have worked so hard and are still working so hard they get, I guess, I don't want to say rewarded, but they get recognized for their passion and what they can do because they've got vehicles that matter and have a voice, and hopefully, they'll be seen for that.
I also want to say that just to reiterate here, we're not talking about Power Rangers, the brand. We're just talking about Saban and Hasbro. We're not talking about Power Rangers. We're just talking about the people that have owned the brand since then. If you're just joining us for the first time right now. So yeah, I understand the cultural shift. I understand the corporate shift, I really should say, and the change. I kind of want to get into what you do like in Power Rangers and what you don't like in Power Rangers. Not necessarily. I just mean like what, because I know you're a fan of the television series. So I just want to gauge to talk about that a little bit, because I know that's something that, because you even stated earlier, you're not really following the comics. I mean, you're, whatever with the movies, but the show has really been the source for your fandom, right?
Yeah, it's all about personal preference, right? I mean, I'm a more traditional guy, so I grew up on the TV show. That's what I fell in love with, right? So I love the TV show. What I love about Power Rangers and the TV show specifically is this idea of reincarnation, right? It's the idea that if this season isn't for you, if you're not feeling the characters, the story, the theme, whatever, next year or now in 2 years, it'll be back, and it'll be a brand new season, brand new characters. I love that optimism, right? There's always that hope that the next season can be better than the last, or it can improve, or it can, right, bring in new fans. That's what I love about the TV show. And again, that's something that Power Rangers has going for it in a way that I can't think of many other franchises who do, and it's very exciting. So I love the TV show. I love just seeing it reinvent itself constantly year after year, and certainly with Beast Morphers, it's back on the upswing again. I love the movie. No secret, right? I've gotten a lot of people chiming in on my love for the movie. I know it wasn't perfect. I know everyone's got their complaints for maybe why it did or didn't work. But that movie holds a dear spot to my heart, just in terms of the story and how much I enjoyed it.
Well, you know what? I'm also a fan of the movie, and
I should clarify. We're talking about 2017. From a few years ago. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm also a big fan of the movie. Here's one thing that I can say about the movie is that my girlfriend was not a Power Ranger fan whatsoever, but I got her to sit down and watch the 2017 movie, and she completely related to it. And to me, it was like, oh, that's how you open a new fan base. That's how you get people involved.
I agree. I've had friends and, just lots of people who wouldn't normally check out Power Rangers, who I can say, hey, look here, watch this. I'd give them the DVD from 2017 and they'd watch it and they'd like it. Mm-hmm. I would have handed them a TV show DVD. In all likelihood, they weren't going to put it on, right? It was, that much I love about the 2017 movie. It was easier to share my passion for Power Rangers through that movie than it is typically through if you were to hand them something else, right? So yeah, anyways, we could talk about that movie all day. Just, oh man, what shoulda, coulda, woulda. But comics I'm not as big on. I just didn't grow up reading comic books. So for me, it's not a natural medium that I gravitate to. But I will say the folks at Boom Studios, I think, are doing an amazing job. Some of the people I know there, they just get Power Rangers. And absolutely. I there's a part of you that would love to see Boom Studios own the property just out of curiosity for what they could do with it. So I think those people are telling great stories. The creativity, the angles they're exploring are amazing. Me personally, I'm just not like a comic book reader. And in the toys, I don't collect as much. I haven't bought a Lightning figure yet. I didn't buy any of the Legacy figures either from Bandai.
Michael, you don't have a Lightning collection figure yet?
I don't. Like I said, I didn't buy the Legacy ones either.
I didn't do the Legacy.
I enjoy seeing what they do with the toys from a strategic angle and all that, but I don't actually buy them myself. I did order the Psycho Ranger pack though, just because that one I had to do. That I pre-ordered pretty fast because we've been waiting for that one since 1998. So that was an instant cup. But otherwise, I don't buy too many of the toys, and then the video games. I've kind of lost my touch with gaming, unfortunately, over the years. So I connect mostly with the brand through the show and the movie. But again, the nice thing about Power Rangers is that what I think has happened recently with Power Rangers, it's great how they have it available across all these mediums now, because if you're a comic fan, a video, right, whatever you like, you can connect with Power Rangers in a way. And I've probably forgotten some of the different mediums in this chat, but you get the point. So, yeah.
And honestly, having this conversation with you is kind of refreshing. And it's something that we would do at something like a Morphicon or something else. You know what I mean? Like this is a conversation I don't think well, obviously, you and I have never had this conversation on why you kind of stepped away from the Power Ranger spotlight, if you will. Now we're kind of getting a clearer picture on why you did. Now, I kind of want to dive into some of the changes that you had talked about, not necessarily seeing, but kind of feeling or just knowing of. Can you talk about some of the changes that you weren't so keen on, we'll say?
Well, yeah, right. And this is this is probably what everybody wants to hear, right? This is probably the part everybody they all tuned in for. But again, right, I think it's important to separate two concepts here, right? Concept number one is what I personally want, right, and what you personally want, what we personally want as fans versus what's right for the brand, right?
Right.
I think, right, I think for Power Rangers, we start looking at what's right for the brand. It's a business. You talked about earlier, right? It's a business, and Power Rangers is as a brand something that I think has underperformed. And Brian Goldner, Hasbro, I believe he admitted that in a quote. It hasn't reached its full potential.
Right.
Power Rangers was a brand that shot up in the '90s. Mighty Morphin took the world by storm. You can argue whether it was successful for those immediate few years after that, but by and large, since the '90s, it has struggled to find its footing. And I don't think that's something up for debate, right? It's not something that the mainstream has truly connected with. I mean, when I meet new people now and I tell them about my love for Power Rangers, just like I'm sure you do, the first words out of their mouth are always, "Oh yeah, so did I. Kimberly was my favorite." Who was your favorite? I'm like, well, I liked, 2009 Power Rangers RPM, Time Force 2001. They're like, oh, I didn't even know about those, right? Power Rangers to people are the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and right. that I think is how you have to look at it. Is how does Power Rangers get back to capturing that audience that only thinks of Mighty Morphin, right? There's a lot more. It's how do you get that mainstream audience back, right? And so that's the goal for Hasbro, as it should be, right? I think it was the goal for Saban. It was the goal for Disney before that, and every company who's owned Power Rangers. It's always about how do we make Power Rangers the next Marvel or DC or other big name franchises like Jurassic, Fast and Furious. Maybe you throw Harry Potter in there, right? These are franchises that people love and adore, and they have transcended generations, as Power Rangers has too, but differently. And so the goal for Power Rangers isn't, before we talk about anything about, the goal for Power Rangers is another movie, or it's to end the show, or it's to go animated, or it's to do this with the toys. The first and foremost goal is getting Power Rangers to be in front of that mainstream audience. So it's something people think about on a daily basis. With, when you think about Marvel, DC, Transformers, and all these other franchises, you put Power Rangers in that conversation. That's the goal for Hasbro, and it should be, and they've got the right thinking in that, and Power Rangers has struggled to do that for a handful of years now, and that's why there's change coming, right? It's how do we get Power Rangers in that direction? Right,
and to take a franchise that Hasbro's done this with is Transformers. If you look at what Transformers originally was in the 80s, it was a cartoon, kind of, it had some small animation iterations in the early 2000s, but we also got that big blockbuster Michael Bay Transformers movie, which ended up turning into a franchise, which Bumblebee was just in the last 2 years or so. So they hit their stride with Transformers, and Hasbro for also the other side of that. They've also had some missteps in trying to do that cinematically, but they haven't given up on it. Look at something like G.I. Joe. The original G.I. Joe film that originally came out didn't necessarily do what they wanted it to do. Then they had a better movie starring Dwayne Johnson. That was the Retaliation movie, but it still didn't quite capture the box office. And now they're trying again. At least it was supposed to come out in 2020, but the G.I. Joe Snake Eyes film with Henry Golding. So you could tell there, and I don't think there's a G.I. Joe cartoon even on the air currently. I can't confirm that.
I don't think so. I'm not sure either. Not to my knowledge, but admittedly, I'm not very. I don't know too much about G.I. Joe.
So it shows that that you can easily kind of tell from both of those prototypes kind of what they want to do with Power Rangers as well.
Well, and again, what's interesting for me is you look at, I think when you guys had some movie news yesterday, and I'm sure we'll talk about the upcoming movie reboot at some point. I saw a lot of people reacting, this idea of why would Hasbro put all their chips on the movie again? That didn't work for Saban in 2017. Why would Hasbro do that now in whatever year the movie comes out? I think it's very simple, right? You look at, again, if you think about the franchises, especially in the superhero genre, that are really resonating with people. Again, it's the Marvel, it's the DC, it's, I don't know if Transformers is a superhero genre, or even Jurassic, Fast and Furious, right? That's all up for debate. But again, if we lump in this conversation of franchises that resonate with people, all those I just mentioned have successful cinematic experiences going for them. They all deliver through the theatrical window. So I think the question is, if for I would ask for anyone is, if you don't deliver Power Rangers through the cinematic experience, how do you get it mainstream again? Because what all the other franchises have shown is you need that solid cinematic theatrical franchise to really lift it into the mainstream audience. And so I don't know how Power Rangers would do it without it. So by no means is it like, oh, all chips on the movie, but the movie means a lot. It meant a lot for Saban brands. I think it played a huge role in why the brand is no longer with Saban. And it will mean a lot for Hasbro when they kind of come around to that in, again, who knows when they'll release at this point. But there's a lot riding on it, right? You can't understate that movies mean a lot to these big ticket franchises.
Yeah, and I also want to say too, yes, I know a lot of you tuned in, obviously, to hear what Michael has to say, because he did take a step back about 7.5 months ago from Power Rangers. But we are going to talk about the news that we broke on Wednesday and then followed up with on Friday. We'll get into that. I promise you, we'll get into that. I will break it down as best I can for you guys, and I'll try to do my best, because I feel like there's a big misconception out there of both of those articles being misinterpreted. I feel like certain people read maybe the headline and took it how they wanted to take it, or just completely misinterpreted. So I'm going to do my best to try to clear it up for you guys as best I can. And I will take questions. And are you open to taking questions, Michael?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So we'll take questions from you guys as well. But yeah, I completely agree with the line of thinking in terms of Hasbro. But I know you and I both, and I know that people, one thing I got a lot of was that you're putting people into a panic in the fandom. That was never my intention. And I just want to make this very clear, is that I personally, I actually love them adapting the Super Sentai, because I'm a Super Sentai. I'm not a Super Sentai purist. Power Rangers actually got me into the Super Sentai, but I always like seeing the American take. And like you had stated earlier, if I didn't like it, there's always a season that I can kind of go back to in a couple years, or there's always some in the past. So just to let you guys know, it's not like I want the brand to die. I don't want, and we're not saying that whatsoever. I'm just trying to reiterate that.
Yeah.
So I know that you're also a Super Sentai in terms of adaptation guy. When they chose Ryu Soldier, what was your initial thought? Because you were out of the fandom already at this, or not out of the fandom, but you were out of the media side of this already.
Yeah, and let me also preface by saying I had no idea Ryu Soldier was right. Like when I'm not this all-knowing. He knew what was coming. I found out when everyone else found out, right? Personally, yeah, I mean, I wasn't a fan. I will say this about Ryu Soldier, and I should also start by saying this: I'm not a Sentai watcher. For better or for worse, all those Toku franchises, Kamen Rider, they just never been my cup of tea. I probably should educate myself more on what they mean. But so for me, when I say when I'm a fan or not a fan, it's strictly on the surface of the suits and what it could do for Power Rangers and the vehicles, right? It's not about the actual story, because I couldn't tell you the first thing about the Ryu Soldier story. For me, I wasn't a fan just because, although I love the Ryu Soldier suits, I think they're beautiful, and so they've got these armors and power-ups. I mean, you've probably seen them. I mean, they're absolutely gorgeous from a visual perspective. It's one of the most stunning seasons I've seen. I wasn't a fan just because I am firmly of the crowd of the, damn it, here we go, dinosaurs again, right? I feel like we were just there with Dino Charge, and so for me, it's like, oh man, time to get excited for dinosaurs again. It's a little difficult. And I also felt it was a safe choice, right? I think Power Rangers, as we talked about earlier, is a brand that's been stuck for a while, spinning its wheels. It hasn't been able to get to that next level and elevate itself into the mainstream. And so I don't know that any of the Sentai options could have done that. That's not the debate we're here to have. Right. But it's like we've been there with dinosaurs before. We tried that with Dino Thunder. We tried it with Dino Charge. We tried it with Dino Supercharge. Is Dino Fury really going to do it? I don't know. That's well, I guess we'll find out next year. I know where I put my money though. But so for me, it was a very safe choice, and I would have rather seen something a little different. I think Q Ranger was a very popular choice, right? Very interesting.
Q Ranger. I wanted Q Ranger so bad, and then I'm not gonna lie. So we got the information about Ryu Soldier, and me personally,
Yeah.
even getting that information as a fan, knowing that I had to report that, it was almost one of those things where it's like, really, guys, like this is what we have to put out. Like, why?
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to. And then we were like, you know what, whatever. And then we came out with it, and even now, I would still love to have a Q Ranger. So
yeah, another interesting one I would have loved to see is the Lupin versus Pat Ranger, and I'm probably butchering these names because of how unfamiliar I am with the Sentai. The one with the two teams, it's got like the cops and robbers.
Lupin, Pat Ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I know they would never do that one because they would never have Rangers fight Rangers. It's ingrained in the Power Rangers Bible, this idea that Rangers should never fight Rangers unless they are under a spell or something like that. So they would never do it. But I thought it would be interesting because, again, it's a place the franchise has never gone to have like two teams of Rangers. It would have been interesting, right? That's another one I would have been a fan of.
It would have just been so hard to do that now culturally, as we have the whole.
Well, that too, yes. This is before COVID hit, before the world really changed, right? Absolutely.
It would have been a little like on the nose of times, right? That would have been, I mean, that would have definitely put Power Rangers back in the spotlight, just under a different, in a different realm of news.
One other thing I wanted to touch on real quick, and not for too long, but when we go back to Q Ranger, there was somewhere out there, I think there was a report, and maybe even it came from you, that Hasbro wasn't big on Q Ranger, I think for a multitude of reasons. One of those reasons, though, being the Yellow Rangers. He's kind of got this swordfish nose kind of thing. The helmet, right? It's kind of bizarre. It's sharp. It sticks out. And I think it was reported that they wouldn't like to do toys on that because it's dangerous. And I think I saw fans really run away with how dumb that logic is, right? Which I guess fair point. But the one thing I would encourage people to remember is with something like that is if you build out, right, Hasbro is a toy company. They want to be an entertainment company, but they are first and foremost a toy company. If you build out a toy with this Ranger that has a nose sticking out, even if you dull it around the edges, it would be sanded, it would be refined, it wouldn't be sharp. It only takes one kid to throw that thing across the room or to step on it and puncture his foot or knock out. It just takes one incident, right? And the news will be, Power Rangers, to your point, will be back in the news for the first time in years. It'll be back in the news for why would they build a helmet that comes out like a swordfish, right? And again, that's not Hasbro's fault. That's not Power Rangers' fault. It came from Japan. It came from Super Sentai. But the mainstream only know what they see on the surface. I'll never forget when I did one of the first Beast Morpher clips a couple of years ago when I was still running Power Rangers Now. I tweeted out a Beast Morphers clip, and somehow it caught the mainstream's attention. I don't know who tweeted it, retweeted it, and somehow all these casual fans who hadn't been around the brand in a while were all in my comments. And the one thing they all had to say, they were like, holy crap, there's a bunny ranger? They're like, how desperate have they gotten? Like it was like, wow, like Power Rangers has reached such a low point that there's a rabbit ranger. And for me, you and I, we're looking at it, we're like, oh, well, we've known about the rabbit since 2012 when Go Busters was out in Japan. But to the common audience, they don't follow Japan. They only see what Power Rangers puts out in front of them. So to them, it's like, what Power Rangers does, although it's not their creation, it's not Hasbro's suit, it's not their idea, Power Rangers is taking ownership of that, and they are representing what they put on the screen. So if they were to put out this swordfish helmet thing, and again, although it's not Hasbro's suit creation, it just takes one kid to do something wrong, and Hasbro as a toy company will be in the news for making a toy that was too dangerous, and why would you do that kind of thing, right? Just takes one kid. I
should have put in the article, because there was a piece I was going to put in that article that I never did, but I should have put it in, was that back in the day, I believe it was Kenner that had the Star Wars franchise figures first. There was a Boba Fett figure that they were promoting way back in the 80s or like late 70s, whatever. But it was before the character had made its appearance in the Empire Strikes Back. And on the back of it had a rocket. And the rocket, the figure ended up never coming out because I believe, it's actually on the Toys That Made Us. They talk about this. That either a kid was going to choke on it, or it was something like that. A kid, they stopped it because they were afraid that a kid was going to choke on it. So they never put out that figure. I believe that there's a handful of prototypes out there, but it's a well sought out after figure. But it very much harkens the same tones that Hasbro would have chosen not to do that with Q Ranger, and I get it in terms of a corporate standpoint.
And I'm sure there's other reasons for Kyuranger. I'm sure, I wanted to bring that one up because that was an interesting one that I saw when the fandom was reacting. But I'm sure that was not the only reason for why they chose Ryu Soldier. I'm sure, right? There's a lot of decisions that go into it. But I don't doubt the credibility that the Yellow Ranger's helmet was. I'm sure there was at least one meeting about it. I'm confident. So,
yeah, it might have been. I mean, it was for sure a part of the decision making. We just don't know how large of a part it is.
Correct.
But it is the one thing that people pinpoint, being like, "Oh, this is big because this is the thing." It's so fascinating to me. Let's talk about other things that are going on, or at least, what did you have any foresight in the direction of Power Rangers was going to go when you had made your decision, or? I mean, I'm guessing that there was something that kind of held you back.
Well, yeah. For me, no. So I never heard the words Hasbro cutting Toei. That never came into my ears. But I just from talking to different people, I could tell it was going in a different direction. Where I had enough evidence to deduce that I could see the end of the live action series, right? Which again, for me, going back to my personal interest, it's the movie, which was not getting a sequel, and the TV show, which now I could see was going to end. So for me, I was like, well, there's my two personal stakes in the game kind of being lifted and uprooted. Granted, I know there's a reboot movie coming out, and I'm sure that'll be exciting. And we just don't, I think we just got to wait and see, right? We don't know enough about that, even with the details you shared yesterday. We got to wait and see what comes of that movie. But I could tell there was a very different direction going. The brand was going to go in a different direction. Right. And again, with a lot of things I talked about earlier, Hasbro, new company, new way of thinking. And their goal is to elevate Power Rangers to that next tier that it has had trouble reaching, I guess, since the 1990s. So I don't know if this is the point where, we should just jump into the whole news with Toei. But, I think. Point. Yeah, I know it's a sensitive subject, right? I know it's disappointing for a lot of people, and I'm not here to. I have no additional information I can share to make anyone feel better. But what I would like to do is to try to turn the thinking on its head a little bit, right? I'd like to maybe we can all think about this a little differently. Think of it from Hasbro's perspective. Again, I love the TV show as much as everyone else. I am disappointed, right? When and if it ends, and there is no more live action like we've been doing for the past 29 years, I will be as disappointed as anyone else, like you will be, because it's what got me into Power Rangers. It's what I grew up on. It's my childhood too. But we have to look at this from a model. This is a formula that has not worked since, I don't know. Again, you pick the stopping point. Is it in space? Is it Lost Galaxy? I don't know, right? Is it Time Force? Whatever point you put, it's a long time ago. It just hasn't elevated, right? Power Rangers, whenever you turn to Power Rangers, the ratings were going down. The toy sales were declining. No one's playing. The movie is flopping. It was always bad news. And so it just seems like it's been on the wrong trajectory. And so if you're Hasbro's perspective, it's like, how do we change that trajectory? And I don't know that just, again, continuing to follow the same formula, I don't know that that's the answer. I think Hasbro has decided that's not the answer. And I actually agree with that decision-making. So the way I want to turn this on its head a little bit is I think the question people have continuously asked since you put out the report is, why would Hasbro cut Toei? I think the question that needs to be asked is, why should Hasbro keep Toei, right? What value is there in continuing to produce this TV show year after year that is just seeing declining returns? Now that's a big question, right? I know a lot of people will point to, oh, well, Ninja Steel sucked. Oh, well, Megaforce sucked, right? Like people will say that. But I just don't know. I mean, we've had good seasons sprinkled in there. We had, and that's also subject to opinion. I love RPM. I love Time Force.
So do I.
I love Dino Thunder. I love SPD, right? The typical ones. They didn't take the brand to new heights either, right? And so it's, even if we bring back another RPM quality season in Dino Fury, is it really going to do what the past 20 years couldn't? I don't think so. I think Hasbro has enough evidence in their court by now to deduce that there needs to be major change. And again, at the time I exited, the words, cutting Toei never came across, but I'm not surprised by it, right? I think it makes sense with the way the brand needs to go. I think with the change, right? You got to try something new. That's what it comes down to. You got to try something new. what's done for 20 years isn't working. You got to try something new to elevate this brand. And it doesn't mean I like it, because I don't, because I will be sad when the TV show ends.
Oh,
so
you and me both.
That's where you separate again what you like versus what's right, and what's right for the brand versus taking your heart out and what when you are personal investment. So
well, I also don't think. Look, if their plan is successful, I just want to say right now, it doesn't mean that a TV show can't happen. You know what I mean? Later on down the line with whatever they want to do, because I think it's really trying to figure out what's going to work. And you're right. If you look at the analytics and data just on Power Rangers, whether it be ratings and how much money it drew, you have 20 plus years of data to intake and figure out, okay, this is how much it made, and this is how much we're putting into it. And you have that information. So I agree with you. I don't think that Hasbro would have decided just to continue on something to keep it as stagnant as it has been.
Right. And the other thing is, right, people will say, oh, ratings, cord cutters, you can't trust TV ratings. Totally valid argument. But it's not just the TV ratings, right? Again, the last movie flop, the toy sales, we have seen reports consistently declining. We've seen, again, I know people anyway. I mean, the video games, tough spot. It's consistently, it just feels like, at least with Power Rangers, it just feels like it's never good news. It's like, boy, it just never goes our way, and I'm a fan, again, as fan, I'm like, just like you guys, I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, it just never goes our way. It's always like, it didn't perform as well as we hoped. And so there needs to be change. Yeah. I mean, you hit it on the head.
Well, I mean, I also think too, and let me, again, restate that, like, it was never our intention to create this discord within the Power Ranger fandom, because at the end of the day, there's 181 of you guys in here right now. And I'm pretty sure that if there's 181 of you guys watching us talk about Power Rangers, you're a fan. We're fans too. It was never our, at least us at the Illuminerdi, it was never our we never wanted to cause discord or panic in the franchise. But we did want to put out the information as we had it. And look, the only reason I put it out, because it took me about almost 3 months. I had been sitting on that along with some other information that I needed to really make sure was I had to really check it out. And it came from a lot of the same people that had told me previous things that had happened in the show. So I have no reason to disbelieve them. Again, it's a report. Like, if you guys want to shoot the messenger, that's completely fine. If you guys don't want to believe me, again, that's also completely fine. If you don't necessarily know the work that we've been doing, again, that's also fine. Let me gain your guys' trust, and we'll see what happens. If it's not stuff that you like that we put out, then you don't have to read it, and that's also completely fine. I just want everyone to know that it's just stuff that we reported on. We also had that second part of the story, but again, I didn't put that out right away, because even when we put that out, it's just a lot to intake, and then I wanted to make sure that part of the movie stuff was accurate too, because not only did I hear some of that movie stuff, I'm obviously not going to tell you some of those sources, because I don't want to get them fired, and they're my friends. But it wasn't just people from Hasbro; it was also people in entertainment that are working very close with some of the people there. So that was a big factor for me, to being like, wow, this is lining up with like 3 different people. So it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'll just say real quick. I mean, Joe, you've taken a lot this week. I think I DM'd you that. I was like, man, you got some tough skin. What I'll say is, one question I've gotten really quick to touch on that people have asked me frequently is like, what's in it? I've gotten a lot of DMs. People say, oh, what's your advice to starting a page like Power Rangers Now? There's a lot of things I could say, but relevant to what you were just talking about, the number one thing is you got to have thick skin. Like, first and foremost, right? I mean, people are opinionated and for valid reasons. But what I would just encourage is just don't, I believe my philosophy, and especially in the last 6 months, how I've spent 2020, there is a direct correlation in the less time you spend on social media and how happy you are. There's a direct correlation. I mean, I have enough evidence in my life that you can't convince me otherwise. And so, the advice for I guess anyone looking to start a page, but also in what you've gone through this week, is just, what social media has done is it gives people a platform to speak, and they're behind a screen and they can say whatever they want without consequence, right? And without knowing people personally, right? I mean, there's so many fans I've known who they say a lot behind their Twitter account, but then you meet them in person and They won't say a lot, but they're also just good people, right? And it just took a getting to know each other, and that's all it takes. And so I encourage everyone just to remember that, you know, when you tweet, when you post, there's someone behind any account, even if it's at Kylie Jenner or whatever celebrity has the most followers. There's someone behind. There's always someone on the receiving end. It's easier important to remember that. Easy to forget that. And so I know for you, Joe, this week you've taken a lot. And so
you know, I'll say this. In terms of the fandom, look, guys, I just want you to know that I'm a fan too. But at the same time, if you don't want to believe it, hey, completely fine. Like, that's okay. Because at the end of the day, I just want what's best for the franchise. And there's a lot of other Power Ranger influencers there that are doing great work. Heirloom, he's in the chat right now. Ranger Liz, I'm sure you know a lot of these folks too. Toku Chris, who's probably going to be joining us in just a little bit here. He's great. He was just doing that Kamen Rider, the Kamen Rider movie. But there's a ton. Orange Ranger videos, there's a ton of people that are doing great work in the Power Ranger community. In terms of that message being delivered and taking this backlash, it's completely fine. The fact is this. I mean, yes, the conversations probably could have been a lot more civil, but at least it's enticing a debate within the Power Ranger fan base that's we're all using the hashtag Power Rangers, which means we're aggregating something, which means hopefully people can hear it. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with healthy debates like that.
And the other thing I would also urge people to remember, who certainly some of those folks you mentioned.
I'm sorry, Jim Viscardi is in here.
Oh,
Jim, I didn't know Jim was a Power Ranger fan. Jim is one of the dudes from comicbook.com. Good buddy. I did not know he was a Power Ranger fan. Sorry, that just caught me off guard.
First of all, I feel honored if Jim is in here. I feel like I suddenly need to step up my game and what I'm saying, right? I mean, the other thing I would just say really quick though is all those names you mentioned, Ranger Liz and Orange Ranger videos and all these folks, they can attest to as well. The way I looked at it when I was running Power Rangers Now is if you got haters, you got to appreciate it. I mean, it shows you're doing something right. There's a quote out there. I don't remember what athlete or whoever said it. They were like, you know, you've succeeded if you've got haters. And I absolutely believe it to be true. I mean, you know, there are people, you just got to understand, who will not like you for whatever you do, right? You could, I mean, there were times on Power Rangers Now, I'm like, I could confidently say, I could go out there and say, I'm going to give you all $1, and they would complain, why aren't you giving me $2? Right. So you just got to remember that, right? Again, there will always be people who just, you cannot win them over. You can't do any wrong. And so you just don't even bother, and certainly don't engage in the Twitter arguments. And it's just it's not worth it, right? Like I said, there's a direct correlation between how much time or the less time you spend on social media and your happiness in life. And so I encourage everyone to give it a shot. It's been great. It's been very healthy for me.
Another fun thing too is that I know that at least in the Power Ranger community, we took a lot of fire for you know, news or whatever it may be. Funny enough, Power Rangers on our website, at least, I know on our YouTube channel, Power Rangers is really big, but on our website, at least, Power Rangers is not even close to really being our biggest stuff that people go for. It's usually the Marvel stuff or the DC, the big blockbuster movies. And we've broken a lot of that news. So if you want to go and check out that's there too. Again, I'm not here to try to convince you that I'm right, because you're all going to formulate your own opinions, and it's just the news that I was delivering. With that being said, I'm obviously not a fan of it either. The movie side of it sounds pretty cool, and I'm sure we'll get into that in just a little bit too. But man, I like the Super Sentai stuff.
To kind of, I want to steer this back a little bit towards, so if we go back towards, I guess, the actual announcement, announcement is not the right word. Just the idea of Hasbro breaking away from Toei, right? I think there's a couple things I think is important to dispel, which are obvious to me, again, just based on looking at the situation. Number one, Power Rangers is not being killed, right? That's not what's happening here. You know, everyone's like, oh, why would Hasbro buy a brand for $500 million just to kill it? It's completely valid, and they're not killing it, right? The other thing I've seen that I don't think will happen is people have said, oh, well, Hasbro is going to nix Toei so they can start their own live action show. I don't believe that to be true. And let me start by saying I don't fully know what's next for Power Rangers. I don't know for certain if it's animated or what the future holds. I've got a couple clues, which we'll go into next, but I don't believe it to be live action, because if you are Hasbro and you cut Toei only to remake your own live action show, right? So you can say, oh, we get to design the suits our way, the story our way, everything is our way. what's important to remember is Power Rangers has problems, right? And you can pinpoint them on Nickelodeon, on Saban, on Hasbro, on whoever you want. But I don't think anyone would tell you Toei is the problem. And so if Hasbro is going to cut Toei just to do their own live action show, that's essentially them admitting that, hey, we've looked at the deck, we've evaluated what's wrong with Power Rangers, and it's you, Toei, you're the problem. We're going to kick you out. And I don't think anybody could make that argument, right? Power Rangers fans have steered their anger at a lot of different individuals or companies. Toei has not been one of those. It does not make any sense why they would incur more costs to create a show that's essentially the same as what Toei is doing. You would only do that if you believe Toei to be the problem. And I don't think anything Toei is doing from a suit design perspective, from a Zord design perspective, can be attributed to what's holding the brand back. So I absolutely do not believe. So on one hand, no, the brand isn't being killed, but I do not believe it will go in the direction of cutting Toei and continuing a live action show. I think we all need to accept that there's going to be major change, and it will be in the form of the live action show we've come and know for 29 years. That formula will not be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just, you're just talking like dollars and cents of what makes sense, and that absolutely does, and that's not necessarily a smack in the face to Power Rangers as a franchise, because I think one biggest misconception about that first article that came out was people panicked that Power Rangers was canceled, and nowhere in that article does it state Power Rangers is canceled, and it's just evolving into something different, and then you and I both realize that it needs to. They literally talked about it, about taking it to the next level. It's never really shown its full potential, and I think that's the next phase of what they want to do. And I think it's always been in the plans to be that phase of moving the brand forward in a different plane of, not plane of existence, but different iteration.
My theory, and this is just, again, pure theory that I think aligns with, again, having been around a lot of corporate acquisitions, there's another element we haven't talked about yet to layer on top of the Hasbro acquisition, which is the acquisition of E1 or Entertainment One.
Yes.
Hasbro paid $500 million for Power Rangers. Let me put that into perspective. They paid 8 times that money for Peppa Pig, right? Yeah. So as much as people say, oh, Hasbro, $500 million, big deal. It is a big deal, but it's the true golden acquisition for Hasbro was E1. So on top of Hasbro acquiring Power Rangers, they are now giving Power Rangers to E1, which is a company that produces Peppa Pig, and I actually don't even know what else. Do they do PJ Masks? I'm not actually entirely sure.
I believe they do PJ Masks, and I believe that they also own Death Row Records.
Okay.
So it was quite a big acquisition, and I feel like
big deal. Yeah.
There's some live action stuff they're doing as well that I can't. Rookie, I think it's Rookie Blue with Nathan Fillion. They produced that, I believe, too.
Okay.
So there's a few things out there that are definitely on their filmography and their portfolio.
All that to say, that's another element of change, right? That's another element through which the brand will change. And here we go. There's another guy I haven't seen in quite a while who I think is lagging right now, or he's just very stone cold facial expression.
Mic's off. Look at that. He's just getting comfortable.
While he loads up, I'll just finish my point real quick about E1. E1 is going to take the brand and they're going to figure out what they want to do with it. But it's a lot of change coming at Power Rangers, right? Hasbro from one angle, E1 from the other, and it's new ownership, it's new people kind of implementing their thinking, and so train of thought has been lost because Chris Luthroy
has. You know what?
So
I also want to say that if you guys have questions in the chat, please let us know. We are going to take questions as well, because I feel like it's a lot to unpack. I think there's look, Michael, myself, Toku, Chris, we're not going to save we can't save a franchise that, we it's hard to say this. Like, what's the words I'm looking for? We're not here to tell you one way of thinking of what's going to happen exactly. We're just here to share our love of the franchise and talk about the news that we broke out. And then also for you, Michael, I was talking about just why you took a step back. That's also a big reason why a lot of people are tuning into this. But I think all the points you're making are pretty spot on, right on the head for what they want to do business-wise.
I think the next logical place to steer this conversation, and certainly Chris can weigh in as well, I think it's what's next for Power Rangers, right? People have heard now about the Toei news, again, whether they believe it or not. They've heard about it. They've heard me now say, I don't think it'll be live action. I don't think Hasbro will choose to do their own live action. So what is next, right? I guess animated is certainly on the table. I'll chip in here with a couple things I've heard.
Before you get into that, let's Toku Chris, if we could jump him onto this too, because he's been waiting in the we'll say the virtual green room. He's ready to come on. Sorry, Michael. Go ahead, buddy.
No. Chris, go ahead. I didn't realize you were. I didn't realize it was a green room.
No, it's not. I mean, I don't. I was trying to get him onto the actual stream. Your mic's off too, Chris. Just to let you know.
Oh, okay, cool.
There you go.
There you go. Hey, it's good to see you, man.
Hey, you too, man. How you been?
Dude,
I see you on Instagram every so often. And
I know we have Chris is another one of the good guys who we've got personal accounts, and again, I talked a little earlier about just the relationships formed through this, and Chris is another one of the guys who, I'm fortunate to know both of you guys, and so we have. I know it's been a while since we've seen each other. It's been a hell of a year, so it's good to see you here.
I know, man.
And I hope you'll be at Morphicon so we can see each other in person next year, which, assuming it happens, I don't think there'll be an event before then.
Yeah, everything's kind of up in the air right now, kind of everywhere. And of course, I moved across the country, so I'm on the East Coast now.
I heard we swapped coasts.
I know, you moved out west and I moved out east. But
yeah.
Oh, look, Chris is in here too. All right, good. Now we have a full-on conversation. So, Michael, I just cut you off, and you were making a really good point, and it was very eloquent what you were saying.
Well, I think just naturally steering the direction of the conversation, right? I think it's a conversation of what does come next if Toei's out of the picture for Power Rangers, right? So I'll layer in a couple of things just with conversations I've had with folks of that maybe will give some hints. Nothing that no one has heard before.
Right.
Firstly, it's the sentiment. Nobody wants to hear it. I certainly don't want to hear it, but it's this common sentiment that I've been told by multiple people I know who work over there. Mighty Morphin, to them, is the A team. They consider Mighty Morphin the A team, and everybody else from Zeo through Dino Fury a B team. They are a side character who may make an appearance every once in a while to lift the A team, but they are not the A team. The A team is Jason through Tommy and all the characters in between. So I believe that will be a big part in where the brand is going. And again, I don't like it because I personally have had enough Jason and Tommy stories to last me a lifetime. That's just my personal opinion and my stake. But I understand it because, as we talked about earlier on the stream, Joe, it's what the mainstream recognizes, right? When I meet new friends and new people, they know Jason and Tommy, and they don't know anyone really beyond that. So it makes sense that to the mainstream, Mighty Morphin is Power Rangers, and Hasbro knows that, and they will use that to attract that audience who knows Mighty Morphin. As far as what's next, immediately after Dino Fury, so my theory was that Dino Fury is a transition season while E1 ignore COVID for a second, while E1 gets their arms around the brand and figure out what they really want to do with it, because this is very new for them. They just hired a new executive. They need time to figure it out. Dino Fury is just going to keep the wheels churning until they truly figure it out. So Dino Fury is, in a sense, a transition season to get where we're really trying to go. That's just a theory. But what I have heard a common sentiment from folks across Hasbro is what's worked for them with Transformers, and Chris can probably talk about this better. I think Transformers took a break or something in between. I have heard from folks that they are not opposed to Power Rangers taking a break. They think if there is nothing on the air for a few years, a couple of years, if there's nothing between Dino Fury and the movie, that's okay. They're okay with that. It's okay to be out of the public eye for a few years and then come back strong. And again, I don't know enough about my Transformers history. It's not a brand I followed, so maybe Chris can shed some light. But I think it's something Hasbro did with Transformers. Maybe they took a little break at one point, and I don't think they're opposed to doing that with Power Rangers.
Well, you have to look at Hasbro's entire brand catalog, right? So yeah, Transformers took a break back in the very early 90s for just a couple of years. But that's because nothing was selling, like period, the end. Then it came back with the Beast Wars. It came back with Generation 2, then went to Beast Wars, and the rest is kind of history. They never really took a break again after that. But I would say look at something like G.I. Joe, right? G.I. Joe military action heroes, right? Not really an easy sell in the end of the 20th or the 21st century whatsoever. But now G.I. Joe's back. It's been reworked, rebranded, redone. It's a 6-inch line. There's a 3 3/4-inch line that Walmart's going to reveal here pretty soon. They're back and ready to rock and roll. You know what I mean? So, and they took a huge break. You had the 25th anniversary line back when I was in college in the early 2000s, and then nothing until literally a couple weeks ago. So that's a pretty big break. Could Power Rangers take a break? It could, and that's I think the important thing that people miss. So I was going to make a joke, be like, "Oh, Joe, I loved your article about the end of the Power Rangers. I don't ever remember reading that you said that the Power Rangers were ending, but I did enjoy the article where they were ending." because that's just the way people go. We're all fans of Power Rangers, right? Like, none of us want Power Rangers to go away, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit there and be like, yeah, Power Rangers is going to make it if I don't think it's going to make it. And everything I've heard, and I know you mentioned, Joe, you said on this news for a couple months. I remember when all of us talked about this news when we first turned out months ago. We've known this. We've known this for months.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I hope you don't mind me saying this, Chris, but you and I both really during the
Toy Fair.
Yeah, during Toy Fair, we really started diving into like of some of the stuff that we were hearing, and honestly, months ago, like it took us forever to really kind of figure out what was going on, because, and then there got to a point at some point, like a lot of people just went quiet and stopped talking to both of us. Like, what is going on? And then luckily I finally got in touch with somebody again, and then I feel like it was painted a little bit more clear for me. And then, I will say this, one thing that I probably should have said in that article, to be 100% honest with you guys, is that I should have said that it made it very clear that it was not the end of Power Rangers, and that we had another bit of news coming. But I just wanted to get more stuff confirmed before because if I just promise everybody, hey, we got more news coming about what's going to happen in the future, and then somebody's like, you know what, you don't release any of that, then I'm like, oh shit, like I just promised something that I can't, speak on.
And I think it's important to remember too, we're not. I haven't heard anything about the toys ending. For those who are
not at all.
I've heard zero about toys going away. In fact, I've heard a lot of great things about toys that I don't want to share just yet, because I don't know if that's public information, so to speak.
Sure.
Regarding, well, I'm not even going to go into it, but hopefully that's something that they show in a video or something, and I can be like, oh, okay, finally, now I can say something, because I'm not going to be that guy that says it if it's not supposed to be public. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, if the only thing that I've heard is that they're looking at potentially ending the Sentai adaptation live action stuff. That's what I've heard. That's what I heard. I know you and I talked about it months ago. I know Mike and I talked about it months ago. That's what we've heard, is that they're looking in that direction, because it's not a formula that works. And you can sit there and say, well, yeah, it's been on the air and they keep doing it, but Saban and Nickelodeon, from everything I understood, signed a 10-year contract in 2011.
Yeah.
A 10-year contract, and it could have been something, I don't know, I'm not a legal lawyer person, but it's one of those things where after 5 or 6 years, there's options that can be exercised or not exercised, and that's what they've been doing, and that's why you keep reading like, oh, Nickelodeon and Saban re-upped their contract. It's not that they re-upped it, it's just that they went ahead and exercised the option that was there for next, 2, 3, 4 years. So the question is, what's going to happen after 2021? That's my question.
Right. Some of those contracts, a lot of people don't know, they tend to kind of renew if you don't give an option of whether or not you're going to renew them. So it's just a whole different thing. I don't know why we lost your feed on camera, Mike.
Hey, am I back? I was having tech troubles. That's on me. I went to turn the light on behind me. So I think I caught the gist I could hear you guys. I think I caught the gist of what you're saying. Yeah, I think what you were saying, I think it's important to stress, Power Rangers is not being killed. And even, by the way, when I say, earlier I referred to perhaps a break coming, perhaps, I don't know for certain, right? Just an idea I've heard floated there that they don't mind a break. Kind of like Chris alluded to, it doesn't mean the toys will stop being there. Doesn't mean Legacy Wars will stop if it's still going. The comics, right? I think what they're referring to is strictly an on-screen break, right? Like, it's okay if there's nothing on TV for a period, or maybe until the movie comes and rejuvenates the brand, which is the hope. But I do think, Chris, I'd be curious to get your take. I do think, if we assume Dino Fury is the last season, do we think the toys will move completely towards Mighty Morphin?
Well, aren't we already seeing that?
Well, true. Yeah, true. Excluding the Lightning, of course.
Excluding Lightning Collection, but the last Beast Morpher figure I think we're getting is this Beast King Red Ranger that we didn't see in the show. But he's the last new figure coming out, and so that's wave 5 of figures. They only did 5 waves over 2 years, but they have a whole line of Mighty Morphin stuff coming out. I mean, we're already seeing it. Now, the one thing I did throw in there, and I think I mentioned this to you, Joe, not that long ago, was whether or not all this information, if we heard it 3 or 4 months ago, means it was decided on 3 or 4 months probably prior to that. Well, what happened 9 months ago? Well, this whole COVID-19 thing wasn't around 9 months ago. is something like that going to influence a decision where it's like, oh, shoot, every movie we were doing just got pushed back a year.
Yeah.
Which would include Power Rangers. So do we go ahead and re-up for 2 more years on this contract and do 1 more Sentai adaptation? Because that's our plan. We keep it on the shelf. We keep it fresh in kids' minds, and we go with it. I think that's important to throw out there too, is that, we heard that things were stopping, but life happens, and life has really, really happened this year. So
let's unpack a little bit of this real quick. And Jezra, I know you're in the chat too. So the future of Power Rangers after 2021 is, at least on television, is unclear. However, we do know there's going to be a film and toys, as Toku Chris was saying, that Mighty Morphin is going to be a large focus. We don't know necessarily, at least I personally don't know the toy lines, what they have planned for it, but I do know that Mighty Morphin is definitely going to be a focus on a lot of their.
And Joe, just not to cut you off, but to really chime in on that, because I know, like I said, I'm not a fan of more Mighty Morphin personally. I get it. I'm not a fan, but I get it. I think there's a lot of people who don't, I don't know, I don't want to say they don't want to believe it, but I would just like to point out some other evidence to back up, although what we're all hearing is that Mighty Morphin is the A-team. People don't have that perhaps same insight that we do, but there is evidence if you look, like Chris mentioned, the toy line is heavily Mighty Morphin. I like to point out a couple others. The social media has yet, and they're very Mighty Morphin driven. The avatar is Mighty Morphin. 80% of their tweets are Mighty Morphin. That artwork that Hasbro posterizes all over the place is Mighty Morphin. I mean, there's enough evidence there to show you what they're thinking, right? There's enough, you can see the writing on the wall. It's Mighty Morphin. This is a Mighty Morphin driven future. And again, if I think if people don't want to believe what comes out of any of our mouths, which is totally fair, you can see the evidence laid out there on social media, in print. I mean, all their marketing is Mighty Morphin driven.
Now, I want to talk. Do you guys want to talk about the movie for a second, or do we want to stay on the show kind of stuff? Even though I know that obviously that was the big news that sent everybody into a frenzy. I
think we can go to the movie. I mean,
is that where
I don't know if I have anything else to add about the show. Like you said, I think unclear future. Who knows what with Nickelodeon? I don't think any of us. I have no clue what'll happen with Nickelodeon, if they'll re-up the deal or not. I think, and it's just me theorizing, I think if I look at potential landing spots for Power Rangers, I look at Netflix personally. This is just my personal opinion, having heard nothing. Netflix is a company that's losing brands, right? All these companies like Disney and Warner and Universal are pulling their content from Netflix. They are in search of name brands that people have heard of. And they're investing a lot in original content because they expect there to be a day when they lose all these name brands. So Netflix is looking for brands. Hasbro needs a distributor. Hasbro Plus, Hasbro Max, whatever you want to call it, streaming service isn't going to fly. There just isn't enough interest or demand for it. So you look at it from both sides. Hasbro needs a distributor. Netflix needs content. It seems like a natural meeting of the minds for Power Rangers to perhaps end up with a series on Netflix. But again, that is just me completely theorizing out of personal opinion as two sides that need what the other has, and it makes sense if the Nickelodeon deal is to not be renewed. I know the Nickelodeon deal has prevented them from going to Netflix. I guess it's worked in that contract somewhere that, while you're with us, you can't air anywhere else, which includes Netflix.
It's a first streaming clause. So Nickelodeon gets the first streaming rights because they have that streaming service or whatever where they can throw the episode on their when you sign up your cable provider and all that. So they have that first right, and that therefore limits when they can put stuff on Netflix. This is why you get half a season, right? At X amount of time. So
And to sign a 10-year contract is quite a lengthy amount of time, and that's something carried over from the Saban era. Just to let people that might not know that know, and it seems like that they're just honoring that contract. It feels very much like 2021. Look, from what I've been able to gather from a lot of people that worked on Power Rangers, is that they feel a little bit handcuffed with that contract with Nickelodeon, mainly because, and this is. I heard this, Jezza, you were in the room when we heard this, but it's mainly because Nickelodeon, they like promoting Nickelodeon produced shows. Unfortunately, Power Rangers isn't a Nickelodeon produced show. It's a Hasbro. It's a Allspark produced show. So there's a lot more advertisement that goes into the Nickelodeon proper produced shows, and I can understand that Hasbro feels a little handcuffed in that deal.
Can I throw out there real quick, and forgive me, I joined the stream a little bit late. I had something else going on.
By the way, how'd that Kamen Rider stream go, man? I saw a little bit of it.
Did you know that James Gunn is apparently a Kamen Rider fan? Because he tweeted about it.
I did not. That's amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a game changer. As far as like recognition in the
Yeah.
West.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyways, because I think it's important to note that you have to look at things from Hasbro's perspective, right? So, what is a big handcuff if you're Hasbro and you do Power Rangers and every 2 years you switch up the show? What's the biggest handcuff? And Michael, you were a lot closer to some of the people at Saban than I ever was, so I know you can probably speak to this a little bit more. The Sentai, there is no input, or at least with Saban, from what I understood, there was zero input from Saban to Toei about what kind of show they were going to produce in Japan for Sentai, which means when it came time to pick a new show to bring over for Power Rangers, you had your options in front of you, and that was it. And if none of them really, really stood out to you, you just kind of picked the least worst you could find, I guess, is what you wanted to do. Now, Hasbro is not Saban. Saban was just a company that held entities and licensed them out. That was how they made their money, right? They owned properties and they licensed literally everything out about them. Hasbro, a little bit different, right? They're a toy company. They own the property. They want to make the money and make the toys. So more control is better.
Yeah.
If I'm a multi-billion-dollar company, do I want a brand that I paid money for to literally have the entire future controlled by an overseas company that won't take my input into making things, or do I want to break away from that and kind of turn it into my own thing? Like what would you do? I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, I think a great example is in the case of like Ninja Steel, right? I don't think I don't remember. I have to jog my memory. At the time of Ninja Steel, Ninja was the least of the bad options, but it was a time of bad options, right? Now today, you may say, well, we've got Q Ranger, we use Soldier, we've got a lot of great options, but at the time of Ninja Steel, I believe nobody was thrilled to pick Ninja. That's the sense I always got. But it was the
safest option.
It was the least evil versus I forget whatever else was on the board at the time. So yeah, I think what you said is absolutely right, Toku Chris. I mean, it allows them more control. But again, I do think it's important to stress that I don't believe Hasbro is cutting Toei because like, hey, we don't like you, Toei, you're the problem. I think it's more so a thing of like, hey, look, Toei, we've done this for 20 years with you. We have not been able to elevate the brand. Like a why should I keep you kind of thing. We love Mighty Morphin. We know that people love Mighty Morphin. I don't need you for Mighty Morphin. And the results that we've been getting as a result of this partnership, which is none of Toei's fault, and they know that, it just hasn't elevated the brand. Why keep doing this? Why keep churning out a new show every 2 years when it's just not getting them where they need to go?
And also, just to let everybody else know too, one of the questions I've been getting a lot too was, will Dino Fury use Sentai footage? Yes, because that's still a part of the Ryu Soldier, still a part of the deal that they previously had. Going forward, obviously, that's where things change a little bit. But even today, I got a text from somebody, and he was just like, "Wow, it'll be a lot easier now for something like Hasbro if they wanted a female Red Ranger to be, the lead of the team. Now they don't have to they're not handcuffed to footage that they have to figure out how a whole season plays out with stuff that's already been shot. So they can really, like to hearken what Chris was saying, they could really make it its own, which is, it's a smart business move.
This is a good transition into the movie.
Yes. Yes. But before we do that, let's take some questions in the chat, Jezra. I know that you've been very quiet. I haven't heard you say a word in the last 15 minutes. So let's take some questions from the chat. Oh, Jezra, are you even still here? Is that
I see him. I think he's on mute.
Off. Your mic's off, buddy. Now your mic's still off for some reason. Anyway, I'll take questions in the chat until Jezra can figure this out, and I'll direct them towards you guys.
Can you hear me?
Well, let's see. How about this question? If Power Rangers continues to fail and has Saban to buy it back, first and foremost, I don't think that's happening whatsoever.
No.
I wanna clear that one up real quick.
Don't think that's on the table right now.
That is definitely not on the table. They're not. That's another thing too.
Heim's got to sell off the music business he just started, so give him like another 6 years. Then he'll go back.
Yes, exactly. Let's see. There you go, Jez.
Death Row Records.
Yeah.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Ello asks, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. He says, if Hasbro wants to sell Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, how that can work if Toy owns Zoo Ranger? Well, licensing deals. Listen, I'm not privy to the exact licensing contract that Saban had, but Saban originally had. So you got to think that Mighty Morphin has obviously transitioned with Saban, then to Disney, back to Saban, now to Hasbro. Regardless of whatever the contracts were, they still, like, you know what I mean? Like, that stuff's already been done. So I'm pretty sure that when Power Rangers was created, it's still its own entity outside of Zoo Ranger, which is obviously different. So that's that. Let's see. We got Brandon in here. Brandon Kionis. He says, would you rather have 38 episodes or 32 episodes for Power Rangers in Netflix? I mean, this is a good question, mainly because in Netflix, most series are anywhere between 6 to 13 episodes a season. If let's just fantasy executive here. If you're controlling Power Rangers and you're going to go to Netflix, what kind of episode count would you guys kind of see them doing?
Well, I mean, from a pure fan perspective,
Yeah,
I would love if it was me when there was no money involved, no stocks involved, no shareholders, just me getting to play in a sandbox. I mean, you know, we talked about it earlier. I love the TV show. I love how it's changed each year. I would love to just see them continue what they've done with Toei on Netflix, one season a year, 40 episodes, whatever, 38 episodes, and good storytelling, like RPM, time for it, and that would make me happy. But that's not what's going to happen. But that would just be me with nothing, you know, with nothing involved. That would be my answer.
All right, let's go to some of this movie stuff real quick because there's a lot to unpack here, and this is two reasons I didn't want to do this in one story either. Is because I was still trying to figure out more about this movie stuff. It wasn't as hard to get information about, actually more so than the shows. It was harder, but I do want to unpack this because it is a lot. Reported by the Hollywood Reporter, the premise was the movie will have teens travel back into time, and it takes place in the 90s. That was not reported by us. That was really reported. That was reported by the Hollywood Reporter when the first news broke that Power Rangers was going to come out with a movie in 2022. Same thing that you guys have heard. Michael, Chris, Jezzer, what do you guys think about that so far?
Well, it's hard for me to say like what I think about it without, I could sit here and say it sounds corny, but a trailer could wow us all, right? So I don't actually have much of an opinion on it. What I will say I think is important for this movie is there were a lot of people even before I kind of hung up the Power Rangers Now cleats who were tweeting at me like, oh, what was wrong with 2017 was there wasn't enough more footage and the suits were ugly. So if Hasbro just fixes that, they'll be good. It was something like, there was a lot of sentiment like that. Like, oh, just fix what 2017 did wrong and we'll be good. But that's not how these things work, right?
Yeah.
There is going to be major change. This next movie will be majorly different from the last movie. You can't just make minor tweaks and expect it to work. It's going to be wholesale changes and very different from the 2017 movie. I'm
getting a big sense that the movie, and a lot of people have used this reference, that it feels very much how they rebooted the Star Trek movies and making that canon with the shows that had previously come before it. I mean, that's what it feels very much like from what I'm gathering with all this Power Ranger stuff. Now, the news that we did have, which, well, some of us have talked about, and I had to make sure and check out some of it was right. So their plan is to shoot it in New Zealand, at least from now. It's the plan to shoot New Zealand. And ironically enough, it's probably going to be shot roughly around the same time as Dino Fury. Being in New Zealand, have they ever shot a Power Ranger movie in New Zealand? Because they did Australia, they did Canada.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Well, I don't think so.
Okay, so this would be a first. Now, I know that they're searching for a female lead. I would assume that's the Red Ranger, but I can't confirm that. All I know is it's for a female lead, and they're casting a very diverse group, and a very diverse group of people for the roles. Now, it's interesting because some people had a problem with them being too woke. It was one of the tweets I read, which I find that to be really funny, actually.
Don't touch that bucket. I'm telling you, I saw that bucket in my mentions with all the Trini stuff in 27. You don't want to go there.
Okay, we won't go down that rabbit hole. Let's do this. Let's talk about this. They will be playing original characters. That at least as of now, they're playing original characters. And different eras of Ranger suits are going to be represented for this film. As of now, from what the script, the current draft of the script is now from Power Ranger history, meaning that like one of the Rangers could be Mighty Morphin, one of the Rangers could be whatever season's more current, Beast Morphers, who knows? But it's gonna have different Rangers in there, and they're gonna have different Zords, obviously. Another thing too is that there's not necessarily. This is something that's still being figured out: is how many Rangers are going to be there. So that's something they're still kind of sorting out in the script phase. Lord Zed is, as of right now, currently the villain of the film, and Zordon is somehow responsible for the time travel. And it will connect to the continuity of the television series. Again, this is the current iteration of where the script is now. So I'm just curious, get your guys' take on that.
Well, it's different. It's different. I mean, look, kind of like I said earlier, I think until we see footage and see a trailer, right, that'll be the ultimate determining point. I think it's also important to say, I think I speak for us all, I'm going to watch this movie. It doesn't matter what happens between now and when it comes out. I will be there to watch it. So let's just get that out of the way. It's different, right? So it's hard to judge. I don't have an opinion whether I love it or hate it. I just think, wow, it sounds different. And it's an interesting take. But again, I think this was, when the 2017 movie didn't do too hot, they had to bring about new changes. They had to go in a very different direction. And this is a very different direction. I think it's important to think about from Hasbro's perspective. This is not a company that has traditionally had storytelling success. I'm just going to say it for what it is. They are a toy company that's trying to pivot into.
Battleship's a great movie. Come on.
But they did have success with Bumblebee, right? That was not just a financial success for them, but it was also a critical success. I think it has a 90 plus or whatever on Rotten Tomatoes, maybe an 85 plus. It's not surprising to see them perhaps want to take some elements from that. And Bumblebee had a female lead in Haley Steinfeld, right? So it's not surprising to see them going in the direction of a female lead here. Since
and ironically,
I've heard the same as you, Joe. It seems like they are pretty on that idea.
Just to cut you off for a second, and it also takes place in the 90s. So it's almost all the elements you just named.
That too, and all the folks I've talked to attached to the movie, it's been very clear they're going very much for like a Spider-Man Homecoming kind of vibe, which I would say is not too far off from Bumblebee, right? That high school innocence kind of feel. So I think there's a lot of similarities to Bumblebee that you can compare to. But I think it's also important to stress exactly, Joe, what you just said. This movie is very much early in development.
Oh, yeah.
The last time I talked to anyone who was attached to it was before COVID. And that's just when Jonathan Entwistle was coming on board and he was going through the scripts. So he was making changes at the time. Again, now we're in a post-COVID world. Nobody knows when this is coming or what. But this is still all very much up in the air. But I think there are certain elements that will stick, like the female lead, like Lord Zed, things like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, and some of those finer story beats, I don't know because I only know parts of what's in the current draft of the script. I haven't read the script, but I just know what's in parts of the current draft. So I want to reiterate that, and just to give you guys a little backstory too that are watching. When the 2017 movie was announced, there was a lot of scripts that they had. One was from Max Landis, which obviously didn't get made. They ended up settling with the one they had. So. Things can change, but it just seems like the overall plan is to be more all-encompassing with the brand. Michael, you said it the best, is how do you get new fans to watch? And you got to do it cinematically, and I don't disagree with that at all.
I think one of the interesting points that were brought up also, because time travel is clearly, we've got enough evidence to, I think we all agree time travel will play a big part of this movie. What I didn't consider was the idea that you could have different suits and Zords in the past and different suits and Zords in, let's just say, the present day, which would then allow you to sell two sets of toys, right?
Right.
There's a lot of that's interesting. And certainly for a toy company like Hasbro, that approach would make a whole lot of sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to line up with the with what they like doing. Chris, in terms of the toys for the movies, I don't know if you have any insight into how they performed with Bandai when they were doing the Saban stuff.
They didn't.
They didn't perform well.
I think that's the easiest way to put it. So the biggest flaw they ran into between Bandai, the toy developer, and making the movie with Lionsgate is the same thing that happened to Transformers. So if anyone's familiar with how Transformers, when they made the movies, the biggest fail that they had, especially in the very first one back in 2007, was they had the robot mode. That this is for Hasbro, the toy maker. They had the robot mode and they had the car mode, and they were given no instruction on how they get to A to B in the movie. So they didn't know. And when you're a toy maker, you want to keep it, close as you can, to the movie, right? So they didn't know how Optimus Prime was going to transform from a robot into a truck or vice versa. They had to just kind of create that on their own and hope that they got it close to the movie. You see that the same in the 2017 Power Rangers movie with the Megazord, in the sense that it.
Uh-oh. Chris, where are you? Uh-oh. He's right in the middle of the... There he is. There he is. Kind of, right? Now is he frozen?
Sit here and smile, because...
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, it's going all over the place. I was gonna say, the movie toys that sell well, and the only reason I could say that is because I know there was stuff that was planned for later on that we never got, and if the movie toy line sold well, we would have gotten them. And just go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. So I feel that let's clear up a little bit of again. This is just for fans talking. Yes, I did report the news, even though it was written. I want another thing too. Our writer Bryce West, he's been taking a lot of heat lately for this article. Listen, he got all the information from me. So if you guys are gonna put heat on anybody, put it on me, not him. He essentially did what I asked him to do and wrote the article, because I think he's a better writer than I am. But he had all the facts right, all the facts that I knew to be accurate. So again, I want to say that you may not know who I am, and that's completely fine if you're watching us for the first time. You may not, but want to believe what's going on too. And again, that's completely fine. If you don't know who I am, I say just give me a chance and let me earn your trust. If not, and we're not for you, that's also completely fine. There's a lot of great... Estee, who's in here right now, he's a great Power Ranger YouTuber. Ranger Liz is obviously awesome. Toku Chris, you're great with what you do as well. There's also Orange Ranger videos. There's a ton of you guys out there. Toy Bounty Hunter, Japanimation. There's a lot of you guys that are doing great stuff, and it just doesn't necessarily need to be everybody it doesn't need to be like one of those toxic fandoms. So as long as we can have a healthy conversation, and again, I know a lot of people may not have been happy about that first part of the news, and that's completely fine, because we're fans, and I understand that too. So there you go. It is what it is. So I just want to clear up some misconceptions, though, because never did we say that Power Rangers was getting canceled. I want to make sure that that's there. Another weird rumor going around is that there's this coinless thing saying that I guess the coinless stuff got leaked, and that's why leaked by, I guess, us, and that's why they never made it. That's not true. And actually, we only wrote one article about the coinless, and it was an article we were sourcing Newsarama, who Kyle Higgins spoke to, and said that they weren't going to continue on because Hasbro didn't want to make the coinless. That was the end of that story. And I just wanted to put that out there too. And I know that a big source of controversy this past week has been sourcing. I just want to clear this up real. No, I mean, not in a bad way, but I just really do want to clear this up for a second. It's sourcing. So sourcing for us is trusted, reliable people that are working within the brand or very close to the brand, and different people that are working in entertainment in general at very high levels. We spark up conversations and we talk about things, and then I get approval to see if I can run certain things, and that's what happens. Now, these people like to remain anonymous, mainly for the fact of they don't want to lose their jobs, or we're just trying to help each other out, because sometimes a lot of people don't realize this. I'm not relegating this to just Power Rangers. I'm also talking about other stuff we cover too, whether it be Marvel, DC, some of these other films, just movies in general. Some of the publicists or some of the sources want us to get this information out because that's the way it kind of works. And they're not going to go to an Entertainment Weekly or some of these bigger websites because they feel that those websites won't take those coverage. I mean, you guys don't realize, but I get emails every single day about certain movies certain indie movies that would like a lot of publicity, and that's the way it works. So, and they'll give us exclusive information, and you guys might not think it's an exclusive, but it is because we're the ones getting it. So that's how that works. It's not, and I understand that there was a misconception that some sourcing meant the source code for the website. That's not what source is. I'm sure that a lot of you know that, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew what everything was, so I could just clear that up.
Can I piggyback on you real quick, Joe?
Yes, sir. Yeah, go for it, buddy. Don't tell me you froze in, Chris.
Terms and oh man, every time.
There you go.
Every time I'm about to talk, it's like, nope, getting time jacked tonight. So back when I was more active on TFW 2005, right, Transformers website, we're talking.
Oh, Chris, what is going on, my friend?
We had people on Hasbro. All right, we're back.
You're back.
So much going on. People from Hasbro leaking things to us because they wanted to get either a fan input or get fan input loud enough to change the opinion of the marketing team.
Yes.
And that happens. And I'm not saying that happened in this instance or anything like that, but people should be aware that like stuff like that does happen, and you can't come out and be like, hey guys, so-and-so, this person on the Hasbro team came out and told us this, and so there you go. You can't do that. Now I am no longer in the business of leaking things like that because I don't want to get sued. So I've seen it happen to people. So I don't do anything like that anymore. But that's why I leave it to Joe.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been to conventions, right? We've all been to conventions. We've all been to bars at conventions. We've all been at meetups at conventions. You meet people, you talk to people, things come up. There are things that people don't even know to this day about things from 4, 5, 6 years ago that if they knew, it would change their entire perception of maybe an actor on the show. It might change their perception of someone involved in the show or someone or a toy or something like. I mean, there's so much, and it's not my news to share. It's not Joe's news to share or Mike's news to share, so it doesn't go out. But someday, if someone's fine with it getting out, it'll go out.
Right, and that's another thing I kind of wanted to say too is that if everybody knew exactly, because there's a lot more of the business side of what was going on that they didn't want me to talk about, and I'm not going to, because that was something that I told them I wouldn't. But it would make things a lot more clear. But that's not my place to say that stuff. I'll do I'll go to the limit of what I can put out, and that's as far as that'll go. And look, here's another thing too, is that I know a lot of people want Hasbro to respond to this. They got bigger things to worry about. And the truth be told, we probably won't even get the ramifications of what's actually going on for another 2 years, especially with that toy thing.
Well, also, I'll say about that. If this week's Psycho Ranger toy set proves anything to you, Hasbro's marketing and public relations, they operate on their terms. So they are not going to respond to this, I imagine, until Dino Fury's completion. And also remember, from a public relations perspective, and especially now that they've seen the reaction to your story, they are not going to release it I would be surprised, actually, let me say, if they were to release it in the form of, hey, we're cutting Toei. I know that's what Saban did with Bandai, but this is a totally new public relations department, totally new company. I would more so expect them to spin it on the direction of, hey, this is just me theorizing, we're going animated. So it's less about here's what we've done, and more here's the big, beautiful future we're going to, right? That's the way they're going to spin it. But again, like you said, I don't expect that to come anytime soon. I think they'll do it on their terms when they're ready. And if you were to announce what comes after Dino Fury now, it would overshadow Dino Fury, which wouldn't make any sense from that marketing perspective. So they won't do that. Another point I wanted to add in real quick, which you loosely touched upon there when you both were talking, it's a sentiment I saw this week in some of the stuff you were dealing with, Joe, is, oh, well, if this is legit news, why hasn't any other outlet picked up on it, right? I saw that from a few people. That was an interesting thought to me, because I have the answer. It's just not the answer any of us want to hear. No one else picked up on it because no one else cares about Power Rangers. That's the truth. These other outlets only report about Power Rangers when Hasbro directly comes to them and says, hey, here's your exclusive. Can you run this for us? This week's Toys is a great example. They gave the Omega Ranger, I think it was, to Screen Rant, and the Psycho Ranger set to Comic Book. Who else wrote about the Psycho set besides Comic Book? Did any other major outlet pick up on it? No. The only outlet that picks up on it is the outlet that Hasbro specifically designates to give it. And that's just because from these websites' perspective, you take like an IGN, it's not worth their time and clicks. Power Rangers is not generating enough interest amongst their audience where they're not going to run it if they have to take it from somebody else. Power Rangers is not in the shoes of like a Marvel, where Marvel can drop something on social media, or DC can drop something on social media, or Harry Potter, or maybe even Transformers, I don't know. But these other big name franchises, they can just send it through their own channels, and all the outlets will pick up on it. They'll do secondhand reporting. Power Rangers does not have that luxury.
When was the last time we got a fan first Friday for Power Rangers on Hasbro Pulse? Oh wait, we haven't. But G.I. Joe's gotten one, Transformers gotten two, Marvel's gotten two. Our stuff just gets sent out to, like you said, Screen Rant, CNET, Comic Book.
Yeah,
I mean that's a big. I mean that's a point that I think gets overlooked a lot. I understand, guys, that I get a lot of the fandom. I know that you guys love it, and I get it. I completely get it. Listen, I wish it had more mainstream coverage too. It just doesn't, and that's kind of what we're trying to change. The one thing that I will say, for the good or the bad, that at least Power Rangers was kind of trending a little bit higher in the last 3 days than it probably had been, and probably since whenever Dino Fury was announced.
Yeah, it ties all in, right? To, I do have to say, first of all, it's been 2 hours here. It's hard to believe. Time flies when you're having fun. Secondly, I will have to jump in about 10 minutes. But it really, what this conversation ties into is to how we started the conversation, right? It is ultimately, the issue is the brand needs to be elevated. The show hasn't done that for 20 years. And so for Hasbro, it's how do we elevate it to that next level so it can be in the conversation with DC and Marvel and again, Jurassic, Fast Food, I don't know, whatever other IP you want to put in that conversation, right? I know those aren't all superhero franchises. And again, you can continue to do the same thing, but that hasn't worked for 20 years. And so, right, it's all, right, so what we're talking about now in terms of outlets picking up and outlets not caring about Power Rangers, it's all in that larger conversation. Outlets will report on what the mainstream cares about. And right now, Power Rangers is not in that conversation. And so Hasbro's going to do what it takes to get Power Rangers in that conversation. So maybe there is a day when Power Rangers can say, hey, look, Dino Fury trailer dropping right through our Twitter account directly, and all the outlets like IGN and Comic Book and Screen Rant and CNET will all pick up on it because they know that they'll get the readership. But right now, these websites know that they are not going to get the readership unless it's an exclusive for them. And Hasbro knows that, and that's why they're delivering it to them through an exclusive. But it's all hand in hand, right? It's all, the rising tide raises all boats, and there just needs to be more interest in the brand. And again, I think Hasbro, again, not that I have to like it. I don't like the end of the live action show. I don't, it's painful for me, but I also can't deny that it's time to take a risk, and it may pay off, and we'll see, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Like, I think that's the biggest kind of takeaway, right? Is that they're going to take a chance on doing something different. And if anything goes to show, it's not like they're going to give up on Power Rangers. They haven't given up on G.I. Joe. Like Chris was saying earlier, they took a long break. I mean, I think how long has it been since Retaliation came out? I don't even know. But now here we are with the Henry Golding Snake Eyes movie that's supposed to come out this year. Probably going to get pushed to next year. But it took a long while for them to want to start doing something again. But they're not going to give up on the franchise.
No, it's not being killed. We all know that. I don't know whether there'll be a break. I don't know whether it'll go animated. It will go into Mighty Morphin. We know that. But who's to know? But it'll be different, right? And I'll be interested to check it out. I personally was never I'm not a cartoon guy, so I'm hoping that's not the direction they go. But I can't deny that it could do well. I don't know. It could do well. There's people who like that, right? It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I mean, look, it really depends on how they pull it off and what the plan is. Because who knows? People are saying, oh, you know what, Power Rangers is going to go animated. I mean, look, and this is a speculation. I want to clear this up very quickly. Is that they could do a play school type of kids show with MMPR and animation. Who knows? It might not be exactly what you want. We don't know what that is yet. Like that, I don't have any information on what they want to do in terms of animation, even if they want to do animation. I've heard that they want to do animation from other outlets, but not from, you know what I mean, from other people. So
Yeah.
I mean, what's that? Oh, not at all. I mean, look, if you have a successful show for kids, it's a cartoon. Like, man, like Mia watches, what does she watch? Is it like the Paw Patrol or like PJ Masks? You know what I mean? Like, she loves that. So kids like that stuff. If they can do that for Power Rangers, it's a whole nother fan base that they're gonna get. Right.
I do think, and I know, Joe, you and I touched about this on sort of close to the beginning, but as much as, we talk about the animation in the show, a lot of I think the future of this brand hangs on this rebooted movie, right?
I agree.
I know people don't like that notion that, they don't like the idea that it's all hanging on the movie. But again, to reiterate what we talked about earlier, you look at these other successful franchises, like, again, to say them again, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Fast and Furious, Jurassic, Harry Potter, right? Whatever. There's many more I'm forgetting, but they've all got one thing going for them. They've got successful cinematic franchises behind them. So the question again is, if you want Power Rangers to join that conversation, how do you elevate it there without using the theatrical experience to get it there, right? It's key. It's a key, not to say Paramount, because that's corny and ironic, because Paramount is the company that's behind it, but it is paramount to the future of this brand. And just like I think you saw things taper off after the 2017 film didn't make it, I think if the future reboot doesn't make it, we'll again be looking at a point of a lot of change. But I think it can't be understated how much this movie means to the future of the franchise, just like 2017 did. And that will be a big driver, right? That will be a big driver, because just like everyone thinks of Marvel now as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if this next Power Rangers movie is to pop off, which we all hope it does, that will be what redefines Power Rangers to this generation.
Absolutely.
And so if there's, let's just say, a female Red Ranger, and I'm making this totally up, her name is Sally. Sally is going to become the new face of the franchise, right? I mean, so it's possible that the face of this franchise we haven't even seen yet. It's a character that doesn't even exist yet, right? Who knows? But
Wait,
it means a lot.
The actual
Shout out to someone on Twitter in 2 years who's going to say, "Hey, she wasn't named Sally. That dude was wrong." So, right. But anyways, I do have to jump soon. No, sorry. No, go ahead, Joe. No, I'll let you. No, go ahead.
You made a great point, though, when you compared it to Fast and the Furious and Harry Potter. Mainly, I would like to say, because those are younger franchises that started off and really grew their fan base out of it. I think that's a really good point. And being in obviously, look, any movie studio would love to be in the conversation, whatever franchise it is, would love to be in the conversation with Marvel and Warner Brothers with DC. They would just absolutely love to. That's where the money's at. That's honestly what it is. But I know you have to go. I want to say thank you, man, for joining us, because it's been 7.5 months, or 6.5 months, I think, 6.5 months since you made that announcement. I mean, that was the first time the fans kind of had a little bit of a panic attack.
Again, kind of like I said earlier, I feel bad for I know a lot how much the page meant to them, and I feel bad for that. I'm sure there were also some who were popping champagne bottles when I announced that too. So it's been a fast 6 months, but I'll tell you, it's been good to be back. This felt like a logical point. I've been getting invites from folks like yourself to kind of do one of these, and I kept blowing you off, but this felt like a logical point. It felt like a logical intersection between the news of the week and people consistently asking, why? What does he mean? He's concerned about the future, right? This just felt like the logical intersection for those two worlds to collide. But it was very good to be back. Good to see Chris, Joe. Good to see you guys again. It's been so long. Nice to, great to meet Jezer. And, we'll see. I'm constantly evaluating. I don't know what the future of the page for Power Rangers Now holds. There's no comeback. 6 months in, at the time I think I quote unquote retired, I had said, maybe it'll come back. 6 months in, I could tell you, life has been beautiful outside, so there are no plans to come back. But I know the page still has some value, right? I mean, yesterday, I promoted this live stream, and it hit I think 40 retweets and 100 something, 20 something likes. That's just Twitter, right? The point is not bad, right? Like better than I expected. The point is for a page that hasn't done a damn thing for 7 months, it's still got some traction. So I'm thinking about ways that it could help other fans and, use it to do some good. And I also intend to try to, some fans express they like to see me do things like this more often. So I may try to, jump into these things with you guys. When you guys do these things every so often, and not just you guys, but other podcasts. And we'll see, right? We'll see. But I don't intend to be super out of the public eye. We'll see. But it was great to be back today and just chat Power Rangers, right? That's the thing about Power Rangers. I don't get to do this with enough people, which is also ties back into the idea that hopefully this all works out and it goes mainstream. But as it stands currently, we don't get to do this with enough people. So it's nice to just chat Power Rangers with you guys, and it's something we all love. And again, good to see you guys, because
it's
who
really
knows
good to see you. Yeah.
who knows when we'll see each other again with the state of the world currently, right?
I know that you have to go. Jezer and Chris, you mind staying on for like 15 minutes? We could talk a little bit more with the chat and stuff. And Michael,
if they can hear me.
If they can hear him. I really appreciate it, because I know I was trying to get you on for a while, and I wanted to really to be on your terms. Actually, wasn't going to ask you to come on this, and Jezer was like, "Hey, you should ask him to come on. It's the perfect opportunity." And then I was like, "Yeah, it is the perfect opportunity. It's a perfect opportunity for you to come on." And you're like,
it is.
It really is.
It is. Well, for a while there, I didn't want to, around Toy Fair, I had gotten a few invites to join some things. I just felt like there wasn't enough time that had passed from my stepping away. I wanted there to be more time. That, again, so all the blowing off I did of you, not personal. I think highly of you, of all you guys, and so not personal. But yeah. I mean, look, I'll again, I'll say keep up the good work, all you guys and all the fans out there who are doing great things. I mean, I know it's tough. It's been a tough year for everybody. It's been a tough year on social media. Been everything about 2020 has been tough, and so keep doing what you guys are doing, and all the fans, don't get discouraged. There's just everyone's got a good thing going, and so I just want everyone to be where they want to be, have happiness, all those things.
You too, man, and I can tell that you're really channeling your inner Jason with the no sleeves today, showing off those guns. I really like that. You've been working out a lot, man.
Hey, man,
do some of this. Just be like.
It's 100 degrees here in LA, but I was telling Joe also at the beginning, for those maybe who joined late, it's quarantine. I got nothing to do. I've just been working out. I'm like, there's just nothing else to do around here. So I'm like, may as well just do more of that.
And yes, congratulations on all your success, man. You have a wonderful job. It seems like things are going well, man. Thank you again for joining us, man. I appreciate it.
No, thank you guys. It was great to be here, and we will do this again soon. And for you guys, how to find me. You have all my personal stuff, and I'll drop you guys now. So this was a long exit. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.
Hey, buddy.
Let's talk a little bit here, because it's the three of us now. We can go to some chat for a little bit. But before we do that, actually, we'll do that. We'll go to the chat for a little bit, Chris. But I do want to ask Kamen Rider stuff, because I'm not going to lie to you, man. I'm not as educated into Kamen Rider as I want to be. Can you talk about the stream that you guys did in the movie that was coming out? Or
Sure.
The movie that you guys did for?
Sure. So it's actually a longer history, I guess, than you might think. So I'll try to truncate it as much as I can, make it a little bit smaller. This has been about almost 2 years in the making, as far as getting it all together. We started. It's all about just trying to get more product available in the United States for Kamen Rider, and then also try to get the show, try to get just that stuff available for fans. Anyways, this originally was supposed to be an anime expo, like exclusive before the world ended. So it was going to be an actual panel, and they were going to premiere the movie at this panel. But all kind of fell apart when COVID-19 happened. So after that, Team Kamen Rider, or Team Rider, as they're known on social, they're part of Bandai. They're part of Bluefin Brands. Bluefin Brands last year was absorbed by Bandai, so now they're part of Bandai. They got together with Shout Factory, and Shout Factory was making Toku Shoutsu at the time, and they had gotten some Ultraman for streaming. They had gotten a deal with Toei for Kamen Rider, the original Kamen Rider, and they got one for Kamen Rider Kuga. They were going to start doing that. They were like, hey, we should all get together, and we should just get this movie together, and we should figure out a way to just premiere it online. So Toei was totally on board with it. They were able to get it officially subtitled, officially licensed, so that's an actual legal movie. I I'm speaking freely on my own. I don't know, but I would imagine I don't think it's going to be made available to purchase. Sorry. But yeah, so tonight was the big stream. Nerdist partnered to help promote. I got to be on a panel with some great people from Team Rider, with Nicole from Tokusatsu Network, and with Shout Factory Ari from Shout Factory TV. It was fun, and then the movie happened. We live tweeted. We got up to number 10 trending in the U.S. Apparently, James Gunn. Amazing. Apparently, James Gunn is a Kamen Rider fan, so that, like I said, is a game changer, especially when you're trying to convince people in Japan who don't think that there's an audience for this stuff in the United States, that a James Gunn is like, oh, cool, I like Kamen Rider, and like makes it public and throws it out there on Twitter, and it blows up all huge. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. It's been a fun night, an exciting night. I'm excited for the future. Hopefully there's more stuff. Oh, and then, of course, for the first time ever that I'm aware of, they got officially through Toei, they had a actor, one of the Kamen Riders, on the show, and he appears in the movie, actually give a message to fans, like in his best English, and then of course he spoke in Japanese, translated, thanking fans in North America and the United States, and then he signed his Kamen Rider, his driver, his henshin device, signed it, and they're giving it away here in the United States to a lucky fan.
Wow. That's awesome. So that's great, man. I'm glad you're bringing awareness for Kamen Rider here in the United States, because honestly, that's something I've definitely wanted to get into. We are going to take fan questions. A lot of you guys have been asking about Dino Fury, where it stands in casting, and I do have a little bit of information, but not much. But it is what it is. I'll just talk about it now, just real quick. It seems like they are stalling. They're stopping with casting right now.
No.
I don't know why, but it seems like that it's they're putting a pause on it right now. I don't necessarily know what that means, and I don't know, what's going to happen if they're going to make all the production dates, because usually by August they would have a cast. Obviously they're behind, so more on that when I get information, and we'll figure that out. But I want to dive in and get some fan questions and really talk about the news that we had dropped in the last couple of days, because I know. Is it fair to say, Chris, that it was a little bit of a Power Rangers civil war that was happening on Twitter?
At this point, it's the same thing. Anytime spoilery news might break, some people like the spoilers or the announcement of changes, and some people don't. Some people say, oh, you should wait until it's official before you announce it, and some people say no, like if you know it, say it. I actually kind of avoided it as much as I could, because I've been busy this week. I've been pushing Kamen Rider pretty hard. I wasn't going to let myself. I was not going to let myself get into that. So I made my comments, and it's nothing that I haven't already told you. It's like, is it true? I don't know. I don't know. Things change. Do I believe it could be true? Absolutely. It makes sense in my head. It makes sense.
Yeah, and we're not trying to scare fans into thinking that it's going to get canceled. That was never the intention. Nor is it our intention to, quote unquote, be negative about the franchise. We're not doing that either, because I honestly do like healthy debates about. I think I more so like hearing what other people think about some of the news, because we all have opinions, and that's completely fine to have that. And I just like seeing more Power Ranger content. I'm not going to lie, Chris, and I told Jezzer this. I went down a rabbit hole on Wednesday night watching every almost like reaction video to the news we dropped. And it's been great. I mean, I will say this.
I did. I'm not gonna lie, I did too.
for all of the videos that I saw, people have been pretty positive. I mean, again, it's not like they were saying that. Oh, Illuminerdi is wrong there.
I see Jezzer smiling in the corner there.
Because
him and I are the same wavelength right now.
Because my favorite is the one that Chris actually sent me, and it just makes me smile.
Well, I know what you guys are talking about, but I think that for me, most people were pretty positive in terms of like, look, they understand the credibility that we have, but again, I'm not gonna sit here and say that like you don't. Hey, believe me, because I say it. You don't have to do that. You mean. We'll find out soon enough. As fans, we're going to find out soon enough. But what I am saying is that I did watch a lot of the videos, and, man, you guys are on top of it. I'm actually happy I did this for a couple of reasons. Yes, I took or at least the Illuminerdi took a lot of backlash. I took a little bit too, but that's completely fine, and I'm okay with it. But the reason why I'm okay with it is because there's a lot of other Power Ranger outlets, YouTubers, whatever you might want to call influencers, out there that I may have not seen all their work, and now watching it's like, dude, some of these people are pretty good, and I'm actually really happy that I found like new things to watch. So I appreciate all of that personally, but I didn't mean to cut you off about us going down rabbit holes on YouTube. It was quite awesome. I'm not going to lie to you.
No, I mean there was positivity, there was negativity. You know, it is what it is. In this fan community at this point, you expect it. You could deliver the best news in the world, and people would find a reason to claim you're a horrible person and that you do horrible things and that you don't, deserve to XYZ element of I don't know. I don't get it, and if that's the way people want to live, that's cool. Like I don't have time for that. So,
but if you look at it like outside of the Power Ranger community, things like this are always happen. You know, so. Like
so that's that. But I also wanted to say, let's go to some questions, Jezzer. I'll do that in the sign off. Go to questions, Jezzer. We have any in there?
Let's see. You already got to the Dino Fury casting news. Let's see what questions you got here. What can we expect in Dino Fury? You guys think it will show off a good bookend for its final season while they take a break?
Well, it's a good question. Chris, you want to take that?
I don't know. Like, I mean, and when you say good bookend, what's your expectation? Like, are you hoping that they somehow tie it in and end the overall story of 27, 28 years? Because I don't know. Like, and when the story is written, do they even know what's happening company-wise for the future? Do they even know? And I've always heard that if you don't want your show to end, you don't write your show to end unless you've been told your show is ending.
Right. Now, we do have another question about the toys. They want us to talk about the toys a little bit. Do you know anything, about the toys, Chris, that, how do I say this without you trying to, do you know anything about the toys that oh man, this is a really tough question to kind of word. Do you know anything about the toys that fans should be excited for? How about that? That hasn't been revealed yet.
I will say this. I'm not going to get specific. I'm not even going to get to a point where it's like it's being shady in how I say it. Do I know specific toys? No, I don't. I can't name a specific toy to you. I think there are developments within the company for the toys that I think should get people excited, and I hope that is the information that can come out soon. It's not my information to share. Hopefully it becomes public knowledge, and we can talk about it and be excited for it.
Another question we have is, with the news you dropped, does that mean it's possible for Shout Factory to distribute Sentai DVDs again? Truth be told, I have no idea what the Shout Factory deal was. I just knew that they were doing Sentai, so I have no idea how that impacts them. I actually didn't even know. Are they still making Shout Factory Sentai? No.
No, so that was San Diego in 2019. Chat might have to help me out because I wish Michael was still here because he would be able to tell you because he got in trouble for his tweet. Because we were walking on the pier when he got in trouble for it. Because he's the one who said, something between Hasbro and Shout, we're still negotiating or going through their agreements, and Hasbro was considering different contracts and stuff like that. And then, of course, it never got changed. And people say, Shout deals strictly with Sentai, but we have to remember, anyone who makes a YouTube video that includes any kind of Sentai footage that hasn't been used as Power Rangers still gets a copyright claim from Hasbro, not from Toei. Because Hasbro owns the distribution rights for the Sentai, even the ones that aren't being used, they own the distribution rights for those in the United States. So, that being said, it still has to get Hasbro thumbs up and Toei's thumbs up before they can do it. And I don't even know that Shout Factory even wants to do the DVDs.
Oh, is that right?
Well, look at so they just announced their Ultraman deal, right, with Mill Creek. Well, Mill Creek is doing all the DVDs. Shout Factory is just going to stream it. So now that's a second property on top of Kamen Rider that Shout Factory is just going to stream. So Shout Factory looks like they're going into the streaming side of things more than the DVD side at this point.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've seen a lot of.
I don't know for sure. Like, don't quote me and be like, Toku Chris said that Shout Factory. I don't know. I'm not speaking for Shout Factory. That's just a perception I had.
Let's see.
On Oh no,
Go ahead.
Nightfall in the chat says, yeah, also in an interview, with the Simon Bennett and I think it was Den of Geek, he said that the show was targeted at 2 to 6 year olds under this regime. So that, I mean, like hearing that, it kind of puts everything into perspective that Hasbro is not really looking to appease the, our nostalgic side as far as the show is.
Yeah, Julio Coolio also says, a while back I theorized the movie could be loosely based on Q Ranger, given the rumored time travel and space element. Do you think that could be the case? I don't know. I mean, I don't think it would be Q Ranger, mainly because that would kind of defeat the purpose of that toy thing. I actually think they're going to really play off of, this is my own personal opinion. Knowing that we do know that they're going to have multiple suits included from different eras. I don't know what those eras are. But I think that that's definitely going to pay homage to maybe the past. I think personally that could happen. Not saying that that's a fact that they are going to actually pay homage to the past. I just think that that's something that's possibly could happen. Let me say this. We're going to sign off in just a little bit, but we're starting a new show here at the Illuminerdi. I don't know how much of you guys are Star Trek fans. I will tell you this. I'm just starting to dive into it with Josh Goldman, who's our resident Star Trek expert. So we're going to start off brand new with Enterprise. It's a good gateway if you guys ever thought about getting into that fandom. Now's a good time to give it a shot. Maybe you want to come along a journey with us to the Starship Enterprise. But before we go, I do want to say I did watch a lot of these videos, and I want to say thank you for joining us, Chris, because you've always been amazing. And I love bouncing things off of you in DMs when we're kind of just talking about like things that are happening, because it helps me go and research things and talk to people that I know, and it almost makes me feel like a detective sometimes. But I do want to say that not all of the fandom is going to believe the reports we had, and that's fine. Not all of the fandom is going to agree with us, and that's fine. Not all of the fandom is going to share our opinions on things, that's fine, but they are passionate. The fandom is passionate, and I respect that. I just want to give a shout out to every single person that's putting out content about Power Rangers, because I respect it all. Again, you might not believe us, and that's okay, but give us a chance and let us earn your respect and let us earn your trust. Yes, we have broken stories in the past, but I'm not going to live in our past. We broke in the Jason was coming back for Beast Morphers. We broke the Ryu Soldier thing. We broke who was coming back for Dimensions and Dangers. We broke a lot, and I'm not going to live in the past saying, hey, we got everything right. Here's the deal. This is the future, and I am going to say this now, is that let us gain your trust. And if we're not the right outlet or show for you, then there's a ton of other great people that are doing this. And I'm going to name some of them now. Toku Chris is one of them. You want to talk? You have a Power Ranger website. What's that website address?
It's Power Ranger. It's PWRRNGR.com. So Power Ranger without the vowels. We're just a group of people that, we're fans. We're passionate. We're not. I'm not trying to be a news scooping story or anything like that website. I'm not trying to break news. I'm not trying to be the first one to put news up. We're trying to be a resource for people to go to, because you know what? I'm an adult, right? I got 2 kids. I got a third one on the way. Like we don't have time to spend like we used to. So this is just a great place for people to go and check it out. And our Twitter has been amazing. I got an awesome social media guy named Mike. He's great. And people are engaged. People love to talk about Power Rangers, and they love to watch Power Rangers, at least online. And yeah, I mean,
Look, and like I said before, even though I want to say personally, not Bryce, not Jezzer, personally, I think my batting average for Power Ranger information has been pretty good. Again, you don't have to look at that and take that for whatever you want to. If you seeing me for the first time, let me try to gain your trust. I will do my best to do so. But I do want to shout out some other people in the community that I think they might not agree with us at all. But I'm going to shout out everybody that I know of that I can. Morphin Legacy, they're out there on Twitter. They're doing their thing. They're pretty cool. No Pink Spandex, Black Nerd Comedy, Ranger Command Power Hour, Ranger Liz, George Jr., Heirloom, Estee, the Morphin Network, Bruno and Mia, Dawson Rider, Orange Ranger Videos, Comic Book Cast, Infinite Attitudes, Blind Entertainment, Deoxy 360, Japanimation, the Fan Club, Power Rangers Super Legends, Toy Bounty Hunter, Steven Alvarez. And if I missed any, I apologize. I know that there's a lot out there, but all of them are providing great Power Ranger content. If not daily, definitely weekly. They are doing an amazing job. So I highly recommend supporting each one of them. I personally, I was watching Ranger Liz last night on her live stream. I listened to Morphin Network. Ranger Command Power Hour and No Pink Spandex actually were the ones that inspired me. Heirloom's amazing. He's great. And honestly, there's one person that blew me away when I started deep diving in their videos, Orange Ranger Videos, man. That dude's satirical kind of like commentary on Power Rangers, I think is some of the best stuff out there. And then there's a lot of fans out there that are just doing kind of like news bites, reporting on the news that's going on, and they're doing a great job at it. Infinite Attitude. And if you want to learn about like history of some of these characters, Este, man, that guy's killing it on YouTube. Honestly, you can get sucked into watching his videos. Like I almost spent a day watching his videos.
Dude, I love Este. I see him in the chat, but I love that guy. He's freaking awesome.
He honestly, I almost think that he's going to end up outgrowing the Power Ranger community. He's going to get, I think that dude's going to get some notoriety very, very soon. But Japanimation, Blinds Entertainment, Infinite Attitudes, honest to God, they're all amazing. And again, if I missed anybody, I truly apologize. But I just want to say, if we're not the right ones for you, somebody in that community probably is. Also, I forgot to mention too. Oh shoot, I forgot it. Oh, Willie Jaco. I know he might not agree, but he's also, you know what? He's a passionate fan. He really is. And if you support what he's doing, go and support him, man. Like, it's good to have different perspectives, and we don't want to. I'm not trying to convince you that we're always right. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to let it speak for itself. And if you guys like what we do, great. If you guys like what everybody else does, great. It's a community. Everybody can work and do this together as a community. So let's take the time out a little bit, take a step back a little bit, let things breathe, and come together as a community, because I'm sure things are small. Oh, by the way, I want to say George Jr., his videos too, that dude has so much passion oozing out of him that it's amazing. I love watching his enthusiasm for the franchise and where he wants the franchise to go, because a lot of the things that he says, I can't disagree with it. So again, Ranger Nation, you guys are all phenomenal. Heirloom, I love his videos, man. I can go on, and on about my love for this fandom, but I want to thank you guys for joining the fandom with us and taking this journey with us. And again, we're going to do what we do here, and if we're not the right choice for you, somebody else out there is. Thank you guys so much for joining us. You guys want to wrap up, or do you guys want to take a little bit more questions for a couple of minutes, because Josh and I are going on in about 10 minutes, roughly. No, maybe not. We're going to go on about half an hour, so we have a little bit more time if we want to talk. Yeah, so that's right. We got to set up. So we have a little bit more time. So
all right, let's do this. I can probably do 5 more minutes.
Let's do 5 more minutes. Let's
5 more minutes, and then I got to bounce. It's almost 11:30 out here on the East Coast.
I know. Let's crank it in there. 5 more minutes. So let's do some rapid fire questions from you guys, and then we are out. So let's go.
Hey, Bounty Toy Hunter's in here now.
What up, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Fine, yes. Thank you, Bounty Toy Hunter. He was on our Twitch stream yesterday, so thank you for that. Yeah, this news was crazy. And look, again, I want to reiterate this too, is that I am not a fan of them not having the deal with Toy. I can never say it right. I apologize. Chris, can you say it for me?
What?
Toy. I can't say it. Toy.
Toy.
Toy. Toy.
T-O-E, and then the letter I. Toei.
Yes. So I'm not a fan of that personally, because I do like the television series. I grew up with Power Rangers. I've been watching it forever, and I do actually like the adaptations of the series. Whether or not I like every series, that's a whole other question. But I think as I got older, I like the challenge that they present to the writers of each season. Hey, let's make this good. How do we make this good? Because I think it is quite a fascinating writing exercise for a lot of these writers.
Do you remember when we threw that after the movie came out in March of 2017, we threw that little party in Pasadena, and
yes.
Toei came out and was doing interviews with people there?
Yeah. Yes. That was. Yeah, Toei came out to that. We did a thing in a movie theater. We got a lot of Ranger Nation into one theater for one of the first screenings. We had a lot of the Rangers show up, and then Toei came out and did our thing. They actually, had an after party after. And they came out to that, and we're interviewing a lot of people about the franchise. So that was a cool experience. So again, I don't want that to end. I personally don't. This is my own commentary. I love the television series. I love the Super Sentai. But I will agree with what Michael said earlier and what Chris stated, and what I actually do think is that just in terms of business, it makes sense to move it in a different direction just because it can garner a bigger fan base. Putting it behind a movie can do that, right? I mean, what's your opinions, Chris?
I'm not like you. I'm not a fan of changing it just to change it. Like it's been a Sentai adaptation for 27, 28 years, right? There's still so many great Sentai shows out there that people want to see adapted. Your Q Ranger, you have Zyuohger fans. There's ToQger fans who want to see ToQger adapted. So there's so much potential still out there that you hate to see it go. At the same time, we're in a time and an era now where you can't really afford too many screw-ups or misses, so to speak. Not, I should say screw-ups, but misses, where you swing and you miss. Especially now that it's a company that's a publicly traded company. This isn't Saban, which is a private company. This is a publicly traded, shareholders. They got to answer to shareholders. You have investors and stuff like that. I like the change because of the way it's going, it's not going to get better. You may get enjoyable seasons, you may get enjoyable casts, but the brand as a whole isn't going to grow or go the direction that everybody wants it to go if it keeps going down the same path that it's currently going.
Yeah, so, well, hey, look, and if any more information does come out, I will be sure to vet it like I always do, and I'll be sure to report it. And I'll probably bounce it off of Chris first, just to make sure that it's something that we can all do. But, I think that's the way it's going to go. And look, I think, at least from what I understand, is that hopefully soon I'll be able to get a little bit more movie information that'll be coming out. So we'll see where that goes. And again, if I have a feeling that even if things do change, we'll probably be one of the first ones reporting on it to let you guys know about it. So we'll figure this all out. And as Ranger Nation, we'll all get through it. And it'll be fine. Gold King Ranger is another one I missed. I know he's in the chat, so I appreciate you joining in. But I think that's going to do it, man. I appreciate you stopping by, Toku, Chris, and Jezzer. I'm sorry. I know that Jezzer wanted to get some frustration out because it's been a trying week. These last 72 hours for our team has been
trying is a.
I am proud of your restraint, Jezzer.
Yeah, it's fun. I had a lot of fun this week, and when you told me you were gonna release it and I edited the video, I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be the end of days coming. It's gonna be so funny. But I knew it was coming. I knew what was coming, and I prepared myself this time.
I mean, yeah, that's one thing we all kind of discussed is like, I actually, funny enough, before the story ran, Toku Chris was one of the first ones to see it because I was like, hey, does this work? and he was like, yes, it's still written. And I was like, all right, cool. But so I actually woke up and I didn't think it was going to be as big as it was. So, I mean, I don't know why I thought that, but I just didn't. But yeah, it's been a crazy 3 days, but we appreciate everybody in Ranger Nation.
Right, so that's a good stopping point for everybody.
Yes, please join us over on Star Trek. We are really excited to start this new show. So I really urge you guys, please join us over there. And where can everybody find you guys on social media?
Chris?
You can find me at Toku Chris on Twitter, Instagram. Then you can also find me at Power Rangers site at Power Rangers site on Twitter, Instagram, and also at Toku Nation on Twitter, Instagram.
You can send all your hate mail to my Twitter at JezzerZeus. So I'll be welcoming all of that. So thank you guys for joining.
You can find me at Joe Illuminerdi and right here at the Illuminerdi. Oh, you can find me at Screen Rant too. I do a lot of stuff over there as well. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and I hope that this helped a little bit for Ranger Nation, a little bit of a healing process. But yeah, man, we'll see you guys next week. We do this Ranger show for your first time watching every Saturday. So thank you guys for joining, and hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and to be notified with everything. And just remember, we are